Introduction: the moment you decide to see clearly. It starts on an ordinary Tuesday, in a coffee shop that smells like dark roast and rain. You're waiting for someone who's 10 minutes late, even though they texted, "Be there in 2." When they finally walk in, they smile too wide and hug too long, the kind of embrace that's meant to reset the clock. "Sorry, traffic," they say, but their shoulders are still near their ears, their breath fast, their bag clutched like a shield. You nod, because that's what we do. We accept the words and ignore the weather inside the person saying them. Still, a part of you notices the micro wobble on traffic, the way their feet angle toward the door, the quick swipe under one eye, like they're wiping away something they don't want you to see. Later, you'll call it nothing. You'll tell yourself you're overthinking, but a quiet voice in your gut will answer, "No, you're not. You're noticing." And noticing is the first doorway to truth. Everyone says they want the truth. Fewer people decide to see it. Seeing truth asks more of you than hearing words. It asks you to observe how a story is carried in a body, how feelings leak through gestures, how stress skews timing, how memory edits itself in real time. It asks you to honor the person in front of you enough to hear what they mean, not just what they say. That's the moment this book begins, the day you choose to see clearly, not to catch people, but to catch what matters. Here's the psychology in plain English. Most of us live in truth default mode. We assume people are honest because it's efficient and kind. That default keeps society running, but it also blinds us to signals our nervous system already detects. When someone is comfortable, their body runs on rhythm, a baseline of tone, pace, posture, and breathing that repeats when they're at ease. Under pressure, that rhythm changes. Cognitive load increases, the limbic system fires, and the body reaches for pacifiers, rubs, shrugs, lip compressions, self-touches to regulate discomfort. None of these cues mean liar. They mean something changed. The question is what and why and for whom. Think about this for a moment. The friend who says, "I'm fine," while their voice drops a half step. The manager who praises your work but glances at the door when you ask about next quarter. The teenager who answers too quickly, then adds extra details you didn't request. The date who laughs at your jokes but keeps their feet pointed toward the exit. These are not verdicts. They're breadcrumbs. When you follow them with curiosity instead of accusation, people often relax, and the real story comes out. Pause and ask yourself, where in my life did I accept a polished sentence when the body was whispering a different truth? There's a myth that reading people is about catching liars. It's not. It's about building bridges strong enough to carry the weight of real conversation. The goal isn't to become a human polygraph. It's to become a better listener, one who can spot when words and signals are out of sync and respond with empathy and precision. You'll learn to establish baselines before the stakes get high, to look for clusters of changes instead of single tells, and to use silence as data. You'll hear how congruent stories sound in the body and how stress squeezes language into hedges, qualifiers, and repeated phrases. And you'll practice the skill most people skip, asking the right question at the right tempo in the right tone. Let's ground this in real life. Picture a Monday stand-up meeting. Your boss says, "Great job on the rollout," but their jaw tightens right after "great." Later, when you ask for feedback, they say, "No worries," while rubbing their neck and switching their weight. The cluster-tight jaw pacifier touch, shifting stance, suggests unspoken concerns. You respond, "If there's anything we should tighten before the next release, I'm open." The neck rubbing stops. You hear, "Well, the onboarding emails were late." The truth wasn't hidden. It was waiting for a safe landing strip. Or imagine your partner says, "It's nothing," but their breathing gets shallow and they go quiet. Instead of pushing, you match their pace. I can tell something shifted. We can sit with it until you have words. Often the body settles and the words arrive. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, and that's the humility this work requires. Sometimes a pacifier is just a pacifier. Sometimes a pause means choosing a more generous sentence. Sometimes the story under the story is a long history of not feeling believed. Your job is not to be certain, it's to be skillful. When you're skillful, people feel seen instead of surveilled. The difference is everything. Here's how we'll travel. We'll start with the first blink, why we miss obvious cues, and learn to notice without judging. We'll practice establishing baselines so you can spot meaningful shifts. We'll map the micro changes in face, feet, and hands that often precede words. We'll decode leaky language, to be honest, I swear, the unnecessary timeline, so you can hear how stress edits speech. We'll explore the power of silence, the pull of status games, and why context prevents false alarms. We'll step into digital life, where emojis and timestamps perform their own dance of truth. And we'll end where most books don't, with the lies we tell ourselves, and the habits that align who we are with what we say. Pause and ask yourself, what would change in my life if I could calmly recognize the moment someone drifted from their baseline? What would become easier negotiations, apologies, boundaries, hiring? What would become kinder? How you hold your kids' anxieties, how you receive your parents' repeated stories, how you navigate tension with your partner. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments like this video, and subscribe for more. Your experience helps someone else hear theirs. This book is a promise and a practice, the promise you can train your eye, ear, and gut to work together. The practice, you'll learn to slow down your first interpretations, to test them against the person's baseline, and to ask questions that invite truth rather than force it out. You'll collect small wins, a safer conversation at dinner, a clearer meeting at work, a boundary you kept without heat. Over time, those wins become a way of being. You will still be surprised by people, that's human, but you'll be surprised less often and less painfully. Before we begin, a gentle agreement. No weaponizing. These skills are for connection, not combat. When you notice something, breathe. Return to curiosity. Let your questions be invitations. Walk me through that again. What felt hardest about that part? If there were a detail you'd add now, what would it be? Truth likes room? Give it some. One more thing. You're allowed to be wrong. You will misread. You will guess and then learn. Good. That's how eyesight improves, by focusing, refocusing, and letting the picture sharpen. The more you practice, the more you'll see clusters rather than isolated sparks, context rather than conspiracy, humanity rather than offense. You'll spend less time in the fog and more time in the clear. Now, the Tuesday coffee shop is behind you, but the lesson stays. The bag clutched like a shield, the too wide smile, the feet pointed toward the door. That wasn't proof of deception, it was proof of pressure. And pressure is where truth either cracks or reveals itself. In the next chapter, we'll step into that very first instant, the first blink, when your brain makes a snap call and your mouth follows. We'll slow time, examine what you miss in the rush, and show you how to replace reflex with awareness. You're closer than you think. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The First Blink. Why We Miss Obvious Cues. It happens the instant the elevator doors open. You're headed to a 7th-floor interview. Palms dry. Questions rehearsed. A man in a rumpled blazer steps in beside you, earbuds dangling, tapping a message with the intensity of a surgeon. When the doors glide shut, he glances up and gives a quick nod, no smile, no small talk. Your brain flashes a headline: rude, distracted, probably difficult. 60 seconds later, you walk into the conference room, and there he is at the head of the table, the hiring manager. You brace. During the interview, his questions are sharp, his follow-ups warmer than expected. He remembers details from your resume you barely remember writing. When the hour ends, he thanks you and says, "I'm sorry if I seemed curt earlier. My daughter texted that her bike got stolen. I was trying to help her file a report." Your first blink was wrong, not evil, just early. Think about this for a moment. How many first blinks steer your day? The barista who doesn't make eye contact uncaring. The neighbor who waves but doesn't stop standoffish. The colleague who answers in fragments defensive. We live by speed. The brain likes shortcuts, and first blinks are shortcuts at scale. They're efficient, sometimes life-saving, but they are also hungry. They eat nuance for breakfast. In the realm of reading people, the first blink is the most expensive free thing you have. Here's the psychology in plain English. Your brain runs 2 tracks, fast and slow. The fast track, automatic, intuitive, fires in fractions of a second, built from patterns, memory, and survival. The slow track, deliberate, reflective, asks for time and oxygen. Most interpersonal mistakes happen when the fast track writes a story, and the slow track co-signs it without reading the fine print. Add stress, and your fast track grabs the steering wheel with both hands. You don't just notice a tightened jaw. You decide it means anger or guilt or disrespect. But a tightened jaw could be a headache, a habit, or a childhood rule about showing emotion. The cue is data. The meaning is a hypothesis. Why do we miss obvious cues in the first blink? Because we're not looking for the person. We're looking for confirmation. Confirmation of our expectations, our mood, our past. If you've been burned by a dismissive boss, you'll feel every clipped word like a slap. If you grew up soothing conflict, you'll interpret pauses as danger. The body in front of you becomes a screen, and you project last year's movie onto today's scene. Meanwhile, the nervous system of the other person is speaking through breath, posture, timing, and touch, but you're listening to yesterday. Let's ground this in a hallway conversation you've had 100 times. You ask a teammate, "Is the report ready?" They say, "Yeah, almost," and press their lips together. Your fast track translates, "They're evading." But pause. What else did you see? Did their shoulders rise and stay there? Did their eyes tilt up left as if accessing language, or down right as if feeling something hard? Did they turn their torso toward you or away? 1 cue, 1 story. 3 cues, better story. A cluster of changes tells you pressure is present. It doesn't tell you why. Maybe the data is late. Maybe they're obsessing over quality. Maybe a client emailed an hour ago with a curveball, and your teammate is taking the hit to shield you. The first blink says, problem. The second look asks, which kind? Your default mind also loves labels: introvert, dramatic, stonewaller, people pleaser. Labels help memory. They also freeze people in poses they only visited for a while. The man in the elevator was not rude. He was a father in a moment of triage. The teenager muttering one-word answers isn't defiant. She's trying not to cry. The colleague over-explaining might be a conscientious human who survives by adding context. Baselines, their normal rhythm when stakes are low, are the antidote to labels. You'll learn baselines in the next chapter, but for now, notice how your first blink collapses a moving person into a still photograph. Consider a date in a noisy restaurant. Your companion laughs easily, a little louder than the table behind you. When the server asks about dessert, they say, "I shouldn't," then quickly add, "but maybe just a bite," and look to you for permission. Your fast track might stamp performer, people pleaser, or reckless with boundaries. Or it might stamp fun. Here's the truth. That glance for permission is a data point about how they've learned to keep connection. Maybe they grew up calibrating a parent's mood. Maybe they've been criticized for indulgence and learned to check, just in case. You don't need to psychoanalyze. You need to be curious. Go for it, I'm in, invites play. No pressure. If you want it, enjoy it. Invites autonomy. Either way, your attention turns a reflex into a conversation. Pause and ask yourself, where does your first blink consistently mislead you? Is it with authority figures, charming talkers, quiet thinkers? Do you mistrust silence because it felt like punishment once? Do you overvalue charisma because someone persuasive once made you feel safe? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? The deeper thing is your history meeting their signals. When you name that quietly, I notice I tighten up around clipped answers. The slow track wakes up. You start testing meanings instead of assuming them. Here's a simple practice to soften the first blink. Step 1. Describe. Don't diagnose. Replace "he's mad" with "his jaw tightened and his replies got shorter." Replace "she's lying" with "her timing paused on the dates and her voice went up at the end." Step 2. Widen the frame. Ask, what else might explain these cues? Brainstorm 3 possibilities that preserve dignity, for you and for them. Step 3. Get one more data point. Ask a neutral, specific question that keeps the door open. Walk me through the timeline again. What felt trickiest about that part? If there's a detail you'd add now, what would it be? Silence after a good question is not empty, it's fertile. Real-world example. Your sibling texts, "can't make Sunday," after promising to help you move. First blink, flaky. You reply, "You always do this." They go dark. Second look, "You okay?" I noticed your message was short. Want to reschedule or find another plan? They respond, "I'm at urgent care with Miles. He broke his wrist." I didn't want to dump it on you. Same behavior, different story instead of a weekend's worth of resentment. Another, your direct report says, "I'm confident we'll hit the deadline," while scratching the back of their neck and shifting their stance. First blink, overpromising. Second look, if something would put the date at risk, what would it be? They exhale and say, "Dependency on the analytics team. If I get their pull by Wednesday, we're good. If not," now you can escalate instead of being surprised at 5 p.m. Friday. Your first blink will always fire. That's fine. The goal isn't to snuff it out. It's to invite the second look to the party When you practice this, people feel safer around you. They sense you're not hunting for a gotcha. You're inviting the whole story. And when the whole story shows up, decisions get cleaner. You set boundaries earlier, you forgive faster, you hold the right lines without lighting everything on fire. If you're listening on YouTube, this is a great moment to share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's a first blink moment you misread, and what changed when you took a second look? As we close, consider the elevator again. The doors open, you step in, you notice the rumpled blazer. Your first blink still registers distracted. But now, you note the clenched grip on the phone, the darting eyes, the shallow breath. You say, "Rough morning?" He nods, grateful, and the room changes shape. That's the skill. Giving your fast brain a seat at the table and giving your slow brain the gavel. In the next chapter, we'll build the foundation that makes second looks reliable. Baselines. When you can read how someone is at rest, you can spot the storm without assuming it's about you. The first blink won't vanish, but it will stop running your life. Chapter 2. Baseline. Before the storm. Reading. People at rest. You're standing at the kitchen counter chopping peppers when the front door opens. Your partner calls, "Hey," sets down the keys and takes off their shoes. On a normal day, they hum absent-mindedly, kiss your cheek, and launch into a small story about the train. Tonight, the humming is missing. The kiss lands late, and the story is a single syllable. Your chest tightens. The mind races. Did I do something? Is there bad news? But then you remember yesterday. How, on a calm afternoon, you notice their baseline. Humming, cheek kiss, story. That baseline gave you a steady frame. Now you can see the shift without inventing a crime. Rough commute, you ask? Worse, they say, softening. Budget cuts. I'm scared. The storm makes sense because the sky was clear yesterday. That's what a baseline is, how someone moves, speaks, and breathes when the stakes are low. It's their rhythm at rest. When you know that rhythm, you can hear the drumline change. Without it, every sound feels like a siren. Most misreads happen not because cues are ambiguous, but because we compare them to a fantasy person instead of the real one in front of us. You're not looking for universal tells. You're learning individual melodies. Here's the psychology in simple terms. The nervous system seeks homeostasis, a steady state. In that state, muscles settle, breath smooths, voice tone evens out, gestures are natural. Under pressure, the sympathetic system ramps. Breath shortens, timing stalls or speeds, gestures get choppy, touch turns into self-soothing neck rubs, lip presses, forearm strokes. None of that equals deception. It equals change. A baseline lets you separate a person's style from their signal. One person's at rest is fast talk and big hands. Another's is quiet words and low eye contact. If you treat stillness as honesty and animation as suspicion, you'll misjudge half the world. Think about this for a moment. Whose baseline do you know so well that you can tell the day before they do when they're about to catch a cold? A sibling who picks at a thumbnail only when anxious. A manager whose emails shrink in length when stressed. A friend whose laugh gets a half-tone higher when they're performing. That's the magic of baselines, the way small patterns announce big weather. Let's make this practical. Begin with baseline minutes. When stakes are low before the meeting starts, while you're waiting for the bill, during a casual walk, observe and mentally note 5 elements. Pace, how fast they talk. Pitch, where their voice sits, posture, open or guarded, breathing, smooth or shallow, and hands to feet. Still, expressive or soothing. You're not hunting, you're cataloging. Then in higher stakes moments, you compare. Did pace accelerate? Did pitch rise at the end of sentences that aren't questions? Did hands migrate to the neck or face? Did feet angle toward the exit? A single cue is interesting. A cluster of shifts from baseline is meaningful. Real life. You're in a one-on-one with your director, Priya. On ordinary days, she stands, moves to the whiteboard, and sketches while she talks. Her baseline is kinetic clarity. Today, she sits, fingers laced, ankles crossed. When you mention budget, her breathing catches, and she gives a tight smile. That's a cluster. Instead of filling the silence with reassurances or panic, you say, "I'm noticing today feels different, happy to hear the real picture." She exhales and shares what she can. The shift wasn't proof of a lie. It was evidence of pressure. Another. Your teenager, Eli, usually narrates their day with dramatic reenactments. Tonight, you get monosyllables, shoulders rounded inward, hoodie strings wound tight around a finger, baseline to storm. Instead of, "What happened? Tell me now," you try. "I can see you're carrying a lot. Want to decompress here or alone first?" You don't force truth. You create the conditions where truth feels welcome. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Baselines are powerful and incomplete. Some people's rest has learned tension baked in. Trauma can make vigilance feel like normal. ADHD can make high energy the baseline. Neurodiversity can flip eye contact norms. So your job is to keep humility near your observations. Baseline is not a box, it's a compass. It points you toward questions, not conclusions. There's a shortcut for environments where you can't spend weeks learning someone. Create a mini baseline on the spot. Ask 2 or 3 neutral, low-pressure questions before touching the hot topic. How's your day going? Where are you joining from? What are you most excited about this week? Watch for rhythm. Their typical pace, volume, animation. Then step into the conversation that matters and watch for drift. On video, also note their tech baseline, camera angle, lighting, delay. Some people look away to think. Others frown when they agree. A quick mini baseline saves you from mistaking their style for a signal. In text and email, baselines look like punctuation, response time, emoji use, and length. When your colleague who writes full paragraphs suddenly replies, "Coquet," that's a shift worth checking. You don't accuse, you align. "Hey, quick vibe check, seems like a busy day. Anything I can take off your plate?" In digital spaces, timing is tone. Baseline helps you hear it. Here's a simple exercise, the 60-second baseline scan. Step 1, 15 seconds. Small talk and neutral questions to establish rhythm. Step 2, 15 seconds. Reflect back a low-stakes detail to see how they respond. So you've got 2 back-to-back meetings after this. Step 3, 30 seconds. Ask a specific, non-threatening content question. Walk me through your top priority for the week. Observe changes. Do they get more precise and energized, alignment, or vague and compressed? Pressure? You're not deciding motive, you're deciding your next question. Pause and ask yourself, whose baseline do I routinely ignore because I'm clinging to my preferred way of communicating? Which people do I judge for not being like me? Faster, slower, louder, quieter? Where am I missing the person because I'm measuring them against my template? If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your observations could unlock someone else's. Don't forget your own baseline. You teach people how to read you. If your at rest is brisk and you slow down only when you're upset, others will correctly flag your pause as a signal. If your at rest includes lots of context and you get terse under pressure, they'll hear the shift. Knowing your baseline helps you preempt misunderstandings. Heads up, I'm quiet today because I'm deep in a hard problem. Nothing's wrong. That single sentence spares a room full of stories. One more caution. Baselines can become excuses. That's just how he is shouldn't protect harmful behavior. Recognizing someone's normal helps you interpret. It doesn't require you to accept mistreatment. You can say, I know raised voices are your style when you're excited. It doesn't work for me. Let's try again with a calmer tone. Truth without boundaries is chaos. Boundaries without truth are brittle. You're learning both. A final scene. You're interviewing a candidate on Zoom. During your mini baseline, she's steady, balanced posture, even tone, eyes to camera. When you ask about a project failure, her breathing shortens and her hands disappear below the frame, self-soothing. You don't label her defensive. You say, take your time. I'm interested in what you learned. Her face opens. I overcommitted, she admits. I set a firmer scope now. The baseline didn't trap her. It freed her to tell the story you actually wanted. As you practice, you'll notice how calm grows inside you. When you can see the sky before the storm, you don't panic at thunder. You listen, adjust, and ask better questions. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. In the next chapter, we'll zoom in on the smallest weather changes, the micro shifts that happen in faces, feet, and fingers before words catch up. If baseline is the song, micro shifts are the notes that tell you when the melody turns. You'll learn to spot the fidget map, the foot pivot, the blink pattern, and what to do with each. Curiosity will do the heavy lifting. You'll provide the patience. Chapter 3. The micro shift, face, feet, and fidget map. You notice it just before the answer lands. The tiniest tremor on your colleague's mouth. A half-second press of the lips like someone tapping a mute button. You've asked if the deadline is still safe. Absolutely, he says, bright and steady. But the micro press came first, then the smile, then the word. A minute later, you spot a heel lifting off the floor and hovering as if the rest of him wants to be anywhere else. You feel it in your gut. Something's off. Micro shifts are the whispers the body issues before the mind finds a sentence. They're quick, often low intensity, and easy to miss when you're waiting for the big tell. But big tells are rare. Small ones are abundant. Faces compress and release. Nostrils flare and settle. Eyebrows knit for a flash, then smooth. Feet point, pivot, or bounce. Fingers find a collar, an earlobe, a cuticle. The signals are human, not suspicious. They say pressure or pleasure or please slow down. Think about this for a moment. When you recall a time you felt cornered, late to a promise, unsure of a plan, what did your body do on its own? Maybe your blink rate surged. Maybe you glanced toward the door or toward your phone, the modern exit. Maybe your mouth went dry and your tongue pressed to the roof of your mouth, producing that lip press. Micro shifts arrive like weather gusts. On their own, they're a breeze. In clusters, they warn of a storm. Here's the psychology, simple and kind. Your limbic system, The fast, protective part of your brain reacts to threat or discomfort before language can explain it. Muscles around the eyes narrow, the jaw tenses, the chin tucks to guard the neck, shoulders lift to armor the chest. The body reaches for pacifiers, little self-touches that soothe the nervous system. None of this means someone is lying. It means the nervous system is negotiating with the moment. Your job is to notice without accusing. Let's give your attention a map to follow. Start with the face. A genuine smile engages the muscles around the eyes. Look for a soft crinkle and a rise in the cheeks. A quick smile that doesn't reach the eyes may be a social patch, polite, not dishonest. Notice lip behaviors. A fast lip press often marks the wish to hold something back. A lip purse can mean evaluation or disagreement. A corner-tightened smile can signal contempt or superiority and often breaks rapport. Brow flashes, quick up, then down, can mean greeting, surprise, or a bid for connection. Blinks tell tempo, speeding up under pressure, slowing in absorption. Again, none equals verdict. Together, they draw a picture. Drop your gaze to the feet and legs, the parts people forget to manage. Feet point toward interest. When someone's feet drift toward the exit, the conversation might already be over. A heel that hovers and taps is restless energy. Calf bounce often marks impatience or adrenaline. When tension spikes, legs cross at the ankles, under the chair a subtle shield. These cues aren't rude, they're honest. Feet speak the truth because no one taught them to lie. Now, the fidget map. Picture the body like a city with popular soothing spots. The face gets a lot of traffic. Cheek rubs, temple touches, nose strokes. The neck and collarbone are prime real estate for stress mapping. People rub there to calm the vagus nerve. Fingers pick at nails, spin rings, twirl pins. Hands vanish below the table and return a moment later. Each fidget is a pacifier. The question isn't, what are they hiding, but what just got hard? Relatable scenes make this real. You're at a family dinner. You ask your brother if he's going to Mom's appointment next week. He says, "Yeah, sure." But his nostrils flare, he inhales shallow, and his ankle hooks around the chair leg. Cluster. You try. "We can divide tasks, if that helps." "What would make it doable?" He exhales. "I can't get away from the hospital that day." The micro shifts weren't deception. They were a fight between loyalty and schedule. Another day, you're negotiating with a vendor on price. When you say the number you need, her chin lifts a notch and her eyes narrow for a beat. Then she smiles and says, "We can explore that." The chin lift can be a status move, a brace. The eye narrow can mark skepticism or calculation. You respond with clarity, not aggression. "I want a win-win. If we can't get the price, can we adjust scope?" Her shoulders drop. The conversation gets honest. Pause and ask yourself, which micro shifts do you see most often in the people around you? Is there a friend whose lip curls on one side when they're about to disagree? A manager whose blink rate doubles when a deck misses the mark? A teenager who hides their hands when the topic brushes shame? Notice, too, your own. Where do your fingers fly when you're uneasy? What does your foot do when you're eager to escape? When you know your map, you can narrate your shifts. If I start rubbing my neck, it means I'm overwhelmed. I'm not mad at you. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Always. Micro shifts tell you there is energy in the system. They don't tell you why. A nose touch might be an itch. A calf bounce might be caffeine. Neurodivergent patterns can include stimming that soothes regardless of pressure. Cultural norms shape eye contact and gestures. That's why you build from baseline, look for clusters, and test your read with gentle questions. The humility is part of the skill. Here's a simple tool you can use today. The See, Breathe, Bridge sequence. See one micro shift, cluster 2 or 3 cues that deviate from baseline. Breathe once to cancel your urge to label. Bridge with a neutral invitation. We can slow down. What part feels tight? Or, take a minute. I'm not in a rush. The breath keeps you kind. The bridge keeps the other person safe enough to tell you what the cues were already saying. Another practice. Narrate the observable. When I mentioned timeline, I noticed your foot started to bounce and you paused. What would help here? You're not a detective. You're a partner. Most people don't want to hide. They want to not be punished for needing more space or time. When you name the micro shift without heat, you offer dignity. Dignity invites truth. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Which micro cue have you started to notice lately, and what changed when you responded with curiosity instead of accusation? Your stories help someone else see their own. A final story to carry with you. You're at a second-round interview, and the panel asks about a time you failed. You tell the truth. As you speak, one interviewer's head tilts, their eyes soften, and the corner of their mouth lifts a small, genuine smile. Another interviewer's lips purse, and their foot starts a metronome under the table. Two different microclimates. Instead of chasing both, you ground in your baseline and end with a clear lesson learned. Afterward, you follow up with a concise note. You don't need to control the room. You need to read it well enough to stay yourself. Small shifts, big payoffs. When you train your eye to see the face flicker, the foot point, the fidget route, you catch the moment before the moment, the instant where a conversation can still turn toward honesty. You don't weaponize it. You widen it. The best part is how your own body changes. You fidget less because you fear less. You breathe more because you trust the process. The room gets kinder because you do. In the next chapter, we'll listen to the other leak, the one that slips through words. You'll hear how language stretches, hedges, repeats, and rearranges under pressure, and how to respond without turning into an interrogator. If the body is the trailer, the words are the movie. Get ready to notice the script your ears have been missing. Chapter 4. Leaky Language. How Words Reveal. What Bodies Hide. It slips out in the doorway, almost an afterthought. You ask your roommate if they used your car last night. I mean, to be honest, I literally just moved it like a tiny bit. They say, eyes already on their phone. The sentence is padded. To be honest, literally just tiny like bubble wrap around something fragile. You weren't asking how much they moved it. You were asking if. The body told a story yesterday. Today, the words are doing their own whispering. Leaky language isn't about catching liars. It's about hearing friction. When stress enters a conversation, words start wearing costumes. They hedge. Maybe, kinda, sort of. They intensify. Absolutely, definitely, I swear. They distance. That thing happened. The car got hit. Or they time travel. I was going to. I would have. I'm trying to. None of these mean someone is lying. They mean the mind is negotiating between competing needs, to be seen as good, to be safe from judgment, to keep a story coherent, to manage emotion, to protect a relationship. Under pressure, language leaks the negotiation. Think about this for a moment. When you felt cornered by a question, how did your words puff up or shrink down? Maybe you got vague. It's complicated. Maybe you got hyper-specific in the wrong places. At 7:03 p.m., I left the office. Then at 7:11, I texted Chris. Even when no one asked for minutes. Maybe you switched people out of your story. Mistakes were made. As if passive voice could sweep guilt under a rug. Words are clues to comfort. Here's the psychology in plain English. Speech is a high-wire act. You're retrieving memory, choosing phrasing, monitoring reaction, and managing self-image, all in real time. Increase cognitive load, add fear, shame, urgency, and the system wobbles. We reach for linguistic training wheels. Qualifiers to soften impact, intensifiers to force belief, repetition to buy time, passive constructions to push blame away, euphemisms to blunt pain. These are normal strategies. The leak is not a verdict. It's an arrow pointing to a pressure point. Listen for clusters. Qualifiers and minimizers often travel together. I just kind of skimmed the contract. Just and kinda suggest under-engagement. You can respond without heat. Got it. What would a full read-through change for you? Intensifiers, I swear, honestly. To tell you the truth, often spike when someone anticipates disbelief. Instead of rolling your eyes, consider why they fear not being believed. Distancing language shows up as missing pronouns and vague nouns. The laptop was damaged, not I dropped my laptop. Passive voice can be a shield, sometimes for good reasons, safety, trauma, sometimes for avoidance. Real life, your manager says, we're basically on track. Basically is the leak. You reply, what would make that fully on track? She says, if we had the API doc by Thursday. Now you have a concrete lever, or a friend texts, I was going to call. Future in the past is a tell intention presented as action. You can hold connection and boundary. Glad you wanted to free tonight to actually catch up? Another scene. You ask your partner, did you see my message about the bill? They answer, I always pay the bills. Always is an absolute. Absolutes often hide exceptions. You try, I know you handle a ton, thank you. I'm asking about this one due Friday. The language stops posturing and returns to the specific. Watch for unnecessary detail inserted at odd moments. In a meeting, you ask a teammate, did you push the fix? They reply, so I logged in at exactly 8:59. Then my VPN did this weird thing where it made me re-auth, and then Slack froze, and detail floods the channel without touching the target. Possible meanings. Embarrassment, a need to be understood, a fear of blame. You can steer gently. Sounds annoying. Did the fix go through? Precision invites precision. Pause and ask yourself, what phrases leak from your mouth when you're uneasy? Do you stack intensifiers? I'm 100% serious for real, because you grew up having to prove sincerity? Do you soften everything with just and maybe because someone once punished you for directness? Your language leaks your history too. When you know your tells, you can choose them on purpose or choose differently. I'm tempted to say just here, but this matters. I need Friday. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Very often. Culture and neurodiversity shape language. Some communities use intensifiers as rhythm, not as persuasion. Some autistic speakers prefer literal phrasing and may avoid figurative warmth. Others lean on scripted politeness to navigate uncertainty. In trauma histories, passive voice can feel safer than I statements. Euphemism may be armor. Listening ethically means holding curiosity and context together. You're not a prosecutor, you're a partner in clarity. Let's travel through 4 everyday channels where leaks show up. At work, a client says, "We might be able to increase budget, let me circle back." Might and circle back are fog. You counter with kind specificity. If expanding is on the table, what number would you be comfortable exploring, and by when could we decide? Now they either name a range or reveal the number. At home, your teen says, "Everyone's going." Everyone rarely means everyone. You answer, "Name the 4 you mean, and tell me who's supervising." The absolutist balloon pops. A real plan appears. If the plan is safe, you can say yes without rewarding the exaggeration. In apologies, if you felt hurt, I'm sorry. The "if" transfers responsibility to the listener's feelings. Swap for ownership. "I'm sorry I interrupted. It landed as dismissive. I'll pause next time." Your mouth can build trust or corrode it. Choose the version that builds. In selling and dating, honestly, this is the best option. Honestly invites the silent question, "Were you dishonest before?" Try, "Here's what makes this a strong fit for you," and name concrete benefits. In dating, "I'm just really busy right now," can be a soft no wearing a time management mask. You can respond with dignity. "No worries, busy seasons happen." If it shifts and you want to plan something specific, reach out. Here's a quick practice. The 3 switches. When you hear a leak, flip these in your mind. Switch 1, from judgment to description. Replace "they're lying" with "they use passive voice and absolutes when asked about specifics." Switch 2, from accusation to curiosity. Ask, "What made that part hard to answer?" Switch 3, from global to granular. Narrow the window. By Friday at 3 p.m. Zrenia, will X be done? Pressure hates clarity. Truth likes it. Another tool, mirror the structure, not the spin. If someone says, "I always show up," mirror the time frame. "In the last month, I remember twice." Help me reconcile that with "always." You're not shaming. You're aligning story with reality. When you keep your tone steady, people often update their language to match the facts. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's a phrase you notice yourself or others using that signals pressure? To be honest, "I'm trying." It is what it is. And what happens when you respond with a calmer, clearer question? A final scene to carry forward. You're in a salary conversation. Your leader says, "We value you immensely. We just don't have the flexibility right now." The adverb and the abstraction do a dance. You breathe, then say, "Thank you. To plan my year, I need numbers. What range is possible this quarter, and what conditions would unlock the next step?" The language tightens, the air clears, and even if the answer is no, it's an honest no you can act on. Leaky language will keep leaking. That's human. Your power isn't to plug every leak. It's to hear where the pipe is, what pressure it's under, and whether the system needs a wrench, a valve, or a pause. Which takes us to the next chapter, the pause itself. Silence is not empty. It's a diagnostic tool and a gift. When you know how to use it, words stop wearing costumes and start walking in the door as themselves. Chapter 5. The Power of Pause. Using silence as data. The room goes still right after you ask the question. It's a performance review, fluorescent lights humming, a pen resting across your notebook like a seesaw. "What part of this quarter felt hardest?" you say, and then you do something you almost never do. You stop talking. Your direct report looks down, picks at the spiral of their notebook, inhales. 1 beat. 2, 3. Your chest tightens. The reflex to fill the air surges up your throat. You could soften the question, offer choices, crack a joke, but you don't. You let the silence stand there like an open door. On the 5th second, they speak. I've been scared you'd see me as replaceable, so I kept saying yes. I'm exhausted. The honesty arrives not because you said the perfect thing, but because you made space for it to land. Silence is not empty. It's instruction. It tells the nervous system, no one is swinging. It signals that you can hold the truth without bolting. Most of us treat silence like a void to be filled, a mistake to be corrected. But in conversations that matter, silence is a diagnostic tool. It's data about cognitive load, emotional temperature, and safety. It reveals what words are circling, but not ready yet. If your goal is to see people clearly, learn to let quiet do part of the work. Here's the psychology in plain English. In every conversation, brains are tracking turn-taking like dancers, feeling the beat. When a question lands, the listener's prefrontal cortex goes to fetch memory, while the limbic system checks for threat. If you jump in too fast answering your own question, cushioning the moment, you hijack that retrieval. The person reaches for their prepared, polite response instead of the real one. A short, calm pause lowers arousal, gives the thinking brain time to assemble a coherent answer, and shows the social brain that it's safe to tell the truth. The vagus nerve loves quiet. It's like shade on a hot day. Think about this for a moment. When someone asks you a hard question, are you happy? Do you want this role? What hurt most? Did your best answer arrive instantly? Or did it appear on the second try, after you sorted the rush of feelings and found words with edges that fit? Silence is the on-ramp for that second try. Without it, people give you speed instead of depth. Real life, 3 places you'll use this. Negotiation. You state your number and then sip your water. Most people blurt to avoid tension, but I'm flexible. It's fine if... Quiet communicates self-respect and invites a counteroffer rooted in reality rather than your fear. Coaching. A teammate says, I don't know when you ask about a solution. You nod and stay quiet for 1 more beat. Okay, they finally add, if we simplified the scope by removing X, we'd hit Friday. Parenting. Your teen shrugs at, how was it? And you resist the urge to pepper them. You give the couch 30 silent seconds. Coach said, I might not start. They whisper into the stillness. Not all truth travels at the speed of your anxiety. Silence also gives you data across channels. A pause before a date mentions their ex might signal tenderness, not secrecy. A pause before a colleague repeats a timeline might signal mental math, not manipulation. The length and shape of the pause matters. A soft, breathing pause often precedes honesty. A rigid, eyes-locked pause can be performative overmanaged. You don't need to judge, just notice. If the pause is protective, lend safety. If it's strategic, lend clarity. Either way, you control your own volume. Pause and ask yourself, where do I bulldoze the truth by filling the air? Meetings? Apologies? First dates? Which emotions make me talk fast or shame? Fear? Eagerness? The urge to prove? What would happen if I replaced one explanation this week with one breath? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Absolutely. Silence can heal, and it can harm. Some people weaponize it. stonewalling to punish or control. Some cultures read brisk turn-taking as warmth, others honor long, reflective gaps. Neurodivergent folks may need extra time to process or may use scripts to reduce uncertainty. Your comfortable pause could feel like abandonment to a nervous system tuned by trauma. That's why we pair silence with meta-communication, saying what we're doing and why. I'm giving you a minute because I'm genuinely interested is a bridge. I'm quiet because I'm upset and don't trust myself yet is a boundary. Silence without context can feel like a cliff. Silence with context is a porch light. Here are practical tools to make quiet useful rather than awkward. First, the count to 3 plus 1. After you ask a real question, count 3 slow beats in your head. If they're still thinking, add one more. Resist the rescue sentence. Second, the echo handle. Repeat their last emotionally loaded word as a gentle prompt. Overwhelmed? This says, I heard you, and invites depth without interrogation. Third, the parking lot. When an answer stalls, say, we can park that and circle back, then actually do it. Often the second pass arrives cleaner because the pressure dropped. Fourth, the breath mirror. If someone's breathing is high and fast, lower yours and slow your pace. Nervous systems co-regulate. Your calm makes their words braver. Try the 90-second window in high-stakes talks. Frame the moment. I want to understand, so I'm going to listen for a minute before I say anything. Set a mental timer, nod. Don't fix. When the minute ends, summarize what you heard before adding your view. This protects against the most common conversational crime, rebutting a thing you never fully heard. In digital life, silence looks like response time. A long delay after a simple question isn't always avoidance. It might be someone composing a careful answer or dealing with life. When it matters, name the gap with warmth. No rush read when you have bandwidth or flagging for later so it doesn't get lost. If a delay hurts, say so directly. When hours go by without a reply, I start guessing. Can we agree on a quick got it and a later follow-up? A scene to practice with. You're apologizing to a friend for missing their event. You say, I'm sorry I vanished Saturday. I overcommitted and didn't ask for help. Then you stop. No pile of justifications. No but. Let the silence hold the weight of what happened. Most apologies drown in words. The best, breathe. In that quiet, your friend's hurt gets to be real, and then it can pass. Silence is also for you. When your partner says something that hits your bruise, your tongue races to defend. Try a self-pause. Inhale. Feel your feet. Label the sensation, heat in my chest, and wait one beat before answering. That beat is the difference between reflex and response. It's how you keep the conversation safe for both of you. If you're listening on YouTube, this is your gentle reminder to share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's one place you'll experiment with a 3-beat pause this week, and what do you predict might change? One more field note. Pair silence with permission. Take your time. Opens a door. I'm not in a rush. Keeps it propped. If a pause stretches and the person looks stranded, offer a ramp. Would it help if I asked a more specific question? Or we can switch topics and come back. You're not withholding speech to gain power. You're regulating the room so truth can breathe. A final image to carry forward. You're at a dinner table where conversation has been all quick jokes and clinking forks. Someone says, I got the biopsy results today. and the table falls into that holy quiet. No one leaps to silver lining or statistics. A hand reaches across the table, chairs angle in. In that silence, courage grows. That's the kind of quiet you're practicing. Not the cold shoulder, but the warm hearth. Next, we'll step into the fault line where most misunderstandings are born. Feelings versus facts. Emotion edits memory, rewrites timelines, and paints meanings that weren't there. In the next chapter, you'll learn how to honor the feeling without letting it hijack the story, and how to ask the question that gently separates the two. The pause will still be with you, making room for both. Chapter 6. Feelings versus facts, when emotion rewrites the story. You see the notification at 9:12 p.m. We need to talk. It's from your manager. No emoji, no punctuation flourish, just 4 words that land like a gavel. Your stomach drops. In minutes, you've written a whole movie. You messed up the client call. The board is furious. Your badge will stop working tomorrow. You replay the day and remember a tightness in your manager's voice that you didn't notice before. You scan your inbox, and suddenly every delayed reply looks like evidence. By 9:20, the verdict is in. You're doomed. At 9:31, another message arrives. Tomorrow after stand-up good news. The film you directed dissolves into static. The facts didn't change. Your feelings wrote the script. Think about this for a moment. How many times has your mood told you a story, your memory then supported with proof? Emotion is a powerful narrator. When we're scared, angry, ashamed, or euphoric, our brain edits. It zooms in on details that match the feeling, blurs the ones that don't, and rearranges timelines to make a clean arc. The scene where you raised your voice becomes, "They attacked me first." The moment you were late becomes, "Traffic was insane," even though you lingered over breakfast. Feelings aren't lies, they're lenses. But lenses bend light. Here's the psychology in plain English. Under emotional load, the amygdala, threat detector, pulls rank. Cortisol floods, heart rate climbs, and the hippocampus, the part of your brain that timestamps and files events, gets noisy. State-dependent memory kicks in. You recall information that matches your current mood and miss what doesn't. Later, during reconsolidation, when memories are rewritten as you recall them, the feeling you're in can tint the memory you're updating. That's why an argument remembered in anger becomes sharper each retelling, and why calm conversations feel unreachable when you're flooded. None of this makes you bad. It makes you human. The fix isn't to distrust feelings. It's to separate them from facts long enough to see both. Let's ground it. A product launch goes sideways. In the retro, someone says, "Engineering ignored our warnings." The room heats. You slow the moment. Let's split feelings and facts. Feelings. We felt unheard and exposed. Facts. 2 emails were sent on May 10th and May 13th. The first got no reply. The second got noted. The risk never made the status doc. Both are true and different. With the split visible, you can repair the relationship without rewriting history. "We need a risk flag that can't be missed," becomes the action instead of "you never listen," which only multiplies wounds. At home, your partner says, "You're always on your phone." That lands as accusation. If you answer from feeling defensive, you argue about always. If you split, you can say, "Feeling, you feel alone next to me." Fact, "I was scrolling for 30 minutes while we watched. I can put it away after 8. The feeling is seen. The fact is actionable. When feelings get respect, they calm down. When facts get daylight, they guide behavior. Try a simple tool, the two-track sentence. Here's my feeling, here's the fact I'm holding. Or, here's the feeling I hear. Here are the facts I see. In a meeting, it sounds like you're frustrated we slipped. Factually, we missed two dependencies. What's the smallest fix that prevents that next time? In a friendship, I hear you felt excluded. Factually, there were 3 invites sent. You were on 2. I can do better checking in about the third. The sentence doesn't minimize pain. It protects reality while caring for the person inside it. Another practice, timestamp and quote. When a conversation turns hot, your memory will try to tidy it. So write while it's fresh. At 2:07 p.m., Alex said, "Let's push a week." I said, "I'm nervous about the client." Alex nodded. "You're not building a case, you're keeping a map." Later, when your brain wants to insert a sigh that wasn't there, the timestamp and quotes keep you honest. This is especially helpful with email and chat. We imagine tones to match our mood. Saved text punctures the projection. Pause and ask yourself, where do your feelings most often overtake the facts? Is it when someone hints at disappointment? When money is mentioned? When your competence feels on the line? Which emotion owns your first draft shame, anger, fear, the urge to please? Noticing the pattern doesn't shame you, it gives you a heads up. I'm in my fear lens. You can say quietly, let me check the facts. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often, yes. Some facts you cling to are partial or irrelevant. They were 20 minutes late is true. It might also be true that your text came last minute or that their kid was sick. Conversely, some feelings you dismiss carry vital data. A gut unease about a deal may flag a value clash your spreadsheet can't capture. The point isn't to crown one king, it's to put them in conversation. When feeling and fact sit side by side, you can make adult choices instead of adolescent swings. Here's a field-tested tool for hot moments. Mirror, label, measure. Mirror the last few words you heard. Not respected? Label the feeling with tentative language. Sounds like you felt sidelined. Then measure the claim. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sidelined did it feel in that meeting? People calm when their emotion is named. Numbers ground fuzzy absolutes. Always often becomes a 6, which becomes when the agenda changed without me. Now you're in the world of fixes. We'll send agendas 24 hours early. Use a before, during, afterboard for gnarly events. Before, what was promised, by whom, with what constraints. During, what actually happened, with timestamps. After, what was said or decided, by whom, with receipts. Tape your feelings below each column on separate sticky notes. Before, I felt pressured to overpromise. During, I felt ignored. After, I felt blamed. Seeing the story and the sensation in parallel lets you hold accountability without erasing anyone's nervous system. In digital arguments, slow the medium down. Text fights are factories for misremembered tone. If you care about the person, switch channels. This feels loaded. Can we talk live? If live isn't safe, write a 2-part message. First, reflect their feeling. Second, ask for one concrete fact. I hear you felt dismissed. Would you paste the sentence that landed that way? Clarity is kindness, especially when thumbs are hot. If you're listening on YouTube, take a breath and share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's one place this week where you'll try the 2-track sentence or the mirror, label, measure combo And what do you predict might change? One more story. A team lead tells you, finance ignored our budget. You feel your chest heat. Accusation alerts your defenders. You ask for the artifact. The spreadsheet shows finance cut a line item and added a note. Pending Q3 review. Feelings dismissed. Facts deferred, not denied. With both on the table, you can advocate cleanly. We felt sidelined by the change. For future cycles, can we join the review call? And for this one, what would unlock the line item? The relationship gets stronger because you didn't choose between care and clarity. Also, your own feelings will sometimes be the fact that matters. If you feel unsafe, unheard, or disrespected, that's a truth about your experience, even if the other person didn't intend harm. The fix is still to split. I know you didn't mean it that way. Fact about intent. I felt belittled when you laughed during my update. Fact about impact. I need a different norm in that meeting. Clear request. Separating intent and impact keeps dignity for both sides and gives behavior a hinge to turn on. The more you practice, the more you'll trust yourself. You won't need to prove your feeling by bending the facts, and you won't need to deny your feeling to honor the facts. You can say, I'm scared, and the data is solid, or I want this, and the numbers say wait. That kind of adulthood is magnetic. People feel safe around you because the story doesn't get rewritten every time the wind shifts. Next, we'll look at why certain feelings flood you faster. Your hot buttons. Bias doesn't just live in headlines. It lives in the split second your past grabs the mic. In the coming chapter, you'll find your triggers, learn to cool them, and see how to keep yesterday from speaking for today. Until then, take one small moment this week to let feeling and fact sit together at your table and watch how the conversation changes. Chapter 7, Your Hot Buttons, How Bias Blinds, and How to Cool It. It happens in a flash at the Monday stand-up. You've just finished your update when Jamal says, I don't think that approach will scale. That one sentence lights your fuse. Your chest spikes hot. Your vision narrows. Without thinking, you hear yourself snap, well, maybe if the data team delivered on time, we'd know. The room goes quiet. You see your manager's eyebrows rise. You see Jamal's jaw set. 10 minutes later, your hands still shake as the meeting ends and you're mad at everyone, mostly yourself. On the way back to your desk, a cooler thought walks in late. Why did that hit me so hard? Hot buttons are yesterday's bruises disguised as today's battles. They're patterns, tones, phrases, postures that your nervous system tags as danger because once, or many times, they were. A raised eyebrow that meant you're wrong. A sigh that meant you're a burden. A delayed reply that meant you don't matter. Now, ordinary moments tug those threads, and your body rushes to defend you before your thinking brain can catch up. The defense often misfires. You scorch a field that didn't need burning. Think about this for a moment. Which tiny behaviors land like thunder in your chest? Being interrupted? Not being seen? A partner checking their phone? A friend running late? Your brain loves shortcuts, and bias is a shortcut in disguise. Confirmation bias looks for evidence that you're being disrespected because once you were. Negativity bias magnifies the one critique and mutes the 9 compliments, because criticism used to be costly. Fundamental attribution error makes others' mistakes about character. He's careless, while yours are about circumstance. I had no time. These biases aren't moral failures. They're survival algorithms that need an update. Here's the psychology in plain English. When a cue resembles a past hurt, your amygdala fires an alert. Cortisol surges, your prefrontal cortex. The deliberation center goes offline. You time travel. That's why a teammate's "we'll see" can sound like your father's "don't get your hopes up," and why you're suddenly 10 years old arguing with a ghost. The body's motto is, if it's hysterical, it's historical. It overprotects. Cooling a hot button is not about shaming your reaction. It's about lengthening the gap between spark and speech, so you can choose a response that fits the current room. Let's return to Jamal. If you could rewind the 5 seconds after his comment, what might you do? First, name the flare silently. Heat in chest. Old story. I'm being dismissed. Second, breathe low. Once drop your shoulders. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. Third, buy time with curiosity. Say more. What part feels shaky? Now the floor is safer. Maybe he's worried about a dependency you missed. Maybe he chose a clumsy phrase. Maybe you disagree, but you'll disagree from your adult chair, not your childhood corner. Practical tools help. Try HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Hot buttons glow hottest when basic needs are frayed. Before a high-stakes meeting or conversation, check your dials. If you're at a 7 on any, your bias will volunteer to drive. Eat a snack, take a walk, text a friend, or say, I want to give this my best. Can we take 10? Another is sift sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. When triggered, scan. Tight jaw. S. The image of being talked over in that old meeting. I. Anger and fear. F. Thought, they don't respect me. T. Writing sift on a sticky note by your screen turns storms into weather reports. Work examples bring this home. Your boss says, we'll review your proposal next week. Your hot button for delay fires. They're stalling. This always happens to me. Pause and ask yourself, but is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Maybe the board meets Friday. Maybe legal needs a pass. You can advocate cleanly. Thanks, timing matters for me. What's the earliest decision point, and what would help you say yes? Now you're solving a timeline, not wrestling a phantom. At home, your partner glances at their phone during your story. Your hot button reads, I'm boring. I don't matter. Instead of lashing out or shutting down, you narrate without heat. When the phone comes out, my brain tells me I'm low priority. Can you put it face down for 5 minutes while I finish? You honored your wound without making it their indictment. That's growth measured in millimeters, and it changes rooms. Bias also flips outward. You read others through your favorite lens. The loud teammate becomes arrogant. The quiet, in turn, weak. The direct manager, cold. Baseline from Chapter 2 is your antidote. Get curious about their normal, not your preference. The loud teammate might be from a family where you fought to be heard. The quiet, in turn, might process before speaking. The direct manager might be sparing your time, not withholding care. When you normalize difference, your hot buttons cool because less is about you. Here's a 5-step pattern breaker you can try this week. 1. Spot the spike. Name it in body terms. Hands buzzing, not he's a jerk. 2. Stop the autopilot sentence. Close your lips for a count of 3. 3rd. Sort present from past. This is Jamal, not my college professor. 4. Seek a neutral fact or question. Which part won't scale? 5. Secure. a boundary if needed. I'm open to critique. I'm not okay with sarcasm. Can we keep it direct? Repeat until your nervous system trusts you to drive. Pause and ask yourself, which two hot buttons run your life? What do they protect? How old do you feel when they go off? If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your story might be the mirror someone else needs. Cooling doesn't mean tolerating harm. Bias correction is not permission for others to be careless with you. You can both cool your triggers and hold firm boundaries. When feedback starts with always or never, I shut down. Can we use specifics? Is both self-knowledge and a request that builds a healthier culture. If specific harms repeat, you're not obligated to heal. You're obligated to protect yourself. What about the opposite hot button, the flattery trap? If praise from certain people makes you overlook bad data, that's a bias too. Status bias and halo effects make us forgive red flags. Counter it by pre-committing to standards. No matter who asks, we require 2 approvals for production. Standards cool both praise and panic. A final scene. You schedule a reset with Jamal. When you said, "won't scale," I reacted. That phrase is a hot button for me. I've been dismissed in the past, and my body thought it was happening again. I'm sorry for the jab. I do want to hear your concern. He nods, shoulders lowering. Thanks for saying that. I should have been specific. I'm worried about the API rate limits. Together, you write a test plan. The bruise gets context. The room gets stronger. The more you map your hot buttons, the less they run you. You'll still feel the spark, but you'll know where the fire exits are. You'll interrupt confirmation bias with present facts, soften attribution errors with generous questions, and use your breath like a dimmer switch. That calm is contagious. People start telling you the truth because you don't punish them for sounding like your past. And you tell the truth because you don't need every moment to prove an old point. Next, we'll step into the trust dance, how to build rapport without getting played. You'll learn the moves, matching, leading, boundarying so connection feels warm and sturdy at the same time. Hot buttons will still exist, but in a room of trust, they flash less, cool faster, and rarely burn the house down. Chapter 8, The Trust Dance, Building Rapport Without Being Played. You meet him in the lobby, warm handshake, easy laugh, eyes that crinkle at the corners. He's the contractor your neighbor swears by. He compliments your bookcase, remembers your dog's name from a single text, and uses your first name like it's a soft rug he lays between you. I want this to feel smooth, he says, and your shoulders drop because that's exactly what you want. By the time you reach the kitchen, you've told him your timeline, your budget, and your worry about being overcharged. He nods, empathetic. Hate when that happens, he says. Let's keep it clean. An hour later, you've got a bid, a start date, and a glow in your chest that tastes like relief. 2 weeks later, the crew is late, the costs adjusted, and your texts get seen with no reply. The warmth was real. The boundaries weren't. Trust is not a light switch. It's a dance. 2 partners feel for rhythm, mirror each other's steps, then decide who can lead when the music turns. Some people move with you naturally. Others step on your toes and smile while they do it. The skill you're building is not just rapport, it's discernment. You want connection that opens doors without inviting thieves. Think about this for a moment. How do you build trust? Most of us do it by instinct, smile, share, nod, match. That instinct is good. Humans are wired for attunement. When people match our pace and reflect our feelings, the nervous system releases safety chemicals. Our guard eases, but instincts run hot. We can flood the room with warmth and forget to anchor with proof. You need both. Warmth says, I care. Proof says, you can count on me. Here's the psychology in plain English. Rapport starts with resonance, a blend of nonverbal alignment, posture, tone, tempo, and verbal empathy, naming feelings, reflecting meaning. This signals we're on the same team and lowers threat. Affiliation systems fire, oxytocin whispers yes. But trust has another pillar, reliability. The brain keeps score with simple questions. Do their actions match their words? Do they show up when stakes shift? Micro-consistency is how strangers graduate to allies. The trap is similarity bias. We trust fast when someone looks, talks, or thinks like us. The antidote is evidence pace. You let trust rise at the speed of small, kept promises. Here's a way to dance that balance. Start with match, then test, then lead. Match is about respectful alignment, not mimicry. Speak at a tempo near theirs, sit how they sit, open invites open, and echo key phrases to prove you heard, not to flatter. If a teammate says, I'm nervous about scope creep, you reply, scope creep worries me too. Let's name the guardrails now. You've joined their rhythm. Rapport grows when people feel seen without being copied. Test is where discernment enters. Don't leap from good vibe to full trust. Create micro-contracts, small specific commitments with short time frames. Could you send the spec by 3 p.m.? Can we agree to a 5-minute check-in after the call? Let's start with one room before we sign for the whole house. Watch what happens. Kept micro-contracts grow trust. Missed ones teach you to adjust before the cost is high. You're not cynical. You're prudent. Lead is where you nudge the relationship toward clarity. Use your rapport to set structure. I like our flow. To keep it smooth, let's write the scope and what happens if things change. Leadership here isn't dominance. It's stewardship. The best partners welcome it because it protects both sides. Real life. You're managing a new vendor. The rep is charming. Instead of signing the year-long retainer because you just know, you pilot a month. You agree on success metrics and a check-in schedule. When the first report arrives late with vague outcomes, you don't panic or plead. You point to the agreement. We said we'd measure A, B, C. Let's reset or stop. Rapport without structure becomes regret. Structure without rapport becomes resentment. Together, they become rhythm. At home, the dance is softer but similar. Your partner shares a dream, moving to a new city. You match, I can feel how alive this makes you. You test, let's do a 2-week recon trip, talk to 3 people who live there, and map costs. You lead, if those checks look good, I'll be ready to talk time frames. You're not shutting the door, you're building a hinge. Pause and ask yourself, where do you tend to over-index too much warmth too soon, or too much proof before you let anyone in? Which part of the dance do you rush because it soothes your fear? If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your patterns will help someone else spot theirs. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, some people undertrust because trust was once punished. Others overtrust because hunger for belonging drowns caution. Naming your edge matters. I bond fast, so I'll protect myself with micro-contracts. Or, I test too long, so I'll practice saying one vulnerable sentence earlier. Awareness turns a clumsy dance into a learnable one. Tools help your feet. Try progressive disclosure, sharing layers that match earned reliability. Layer 1, surface details and preferences. Layer 2, moderate stakes hopes, small worries. Layer 3, high stakes, money, health, deep history. If someone handles Layer 1 with care and keeps their word, offer Layer 2. If they gossip about your Layer 2, don't punish, tighten the circle. Your heart is valuable. Treat it like it is. Use the red flag/yellow flag board. Red flags are deal breakers, lying about money, cruelty to waitstaff, boundary violations after a clear no. Yellow flags are signals to slow and clarify. Vague timelines, small tardiness patterns, overpromising. Yellow flags invite a conversation and a test. Red flags end the dance. People tell you who they are by what they do twice. Try the two-way contract. Say, here's what you can count on from me, here's what I'll count on from you. At work, I'll deliver weekly updates by Friday noon. I'll need approvals within 2 business days to keep pace. In friendship, you'll get honesty and celebration from me. I'll need directness when something's off, not silence. When you write the steps, the dance gets smoother. A scene with the contractor. This time, you match and lead. I like your energy. To keep us aligned, let's write scope, price, and change order rules. We'll start with the bathroom only. I'll release the next payment when phase 1 meets the checklist. He smiles. Maybe he balks. Either way, you learn who's on your floor before you build a ballroom. Trust also grows when you risk small, real moments. You can't vet your way into intimacy. Overstructuring without ever revealing yourself builds sterile safety. Say one true thing sooner. I'm excited and a little scared. I want this job because it matters to me. I disappoint myself when I rush. Appropriate vulnerability is not handing someone your spine. It's letting them see you breathe. The right people exhale with you. Watch for charm inflation. Some folks turn rapport skills into a fog machine. Endless compliments, big promises, no receipts. Defog with specifics. I love that you're excited. Which deliverables land on which days? If answers stay misty, your body knows the step. Back away. If your pattern is the opposite brick walls until year 3, practice giving a small trust to someone who has earned it. Let the intern own part of the deck and review together. Ask a new friend to pick the restaurant. Micro-leadership in others grows when you give it room. One more practice, the repair step. In any dance, toes get stepped on. True trust isn't we never misstep. It's we repair fast. Name the miss without shame, state the impact, and propose a fix. When the update slipped without a heads up, I felt exposed. Next time, ping me early, and I'll help triage. Notice whether they defend and deflect or take in and adjust. That response is data more valuable than any first impression. A final image. You're walking home after a good meeting. The air feels clear because you didn't confuse chemistry for character or caution for coldness. You matched to connect, tested to protect, and led to clarify. The music changed twice, and you both adjusted. That's trust movement that can flex under pressure without tearing. Next, we'll step into context, the fielder of false alarms and the amplifier of truth. Context is king. It explains why the same cue means comfort in one room and conflict in another. You'll learn to widen the frame so a single step doesn't get someone judged for the whole dance. Chapter 9. Context is king, situational truth, and false alarms. It happens in aisle 7, between the pasta and the jars of marinara. You spot your neighbor, Rhea, from 2 houses down. Normally, she's chatty, asks about your dog, gives plant advice, laughs with her whole face. Today, she barely nods and keeps moving, lips pressed, eyes fixed past you. Your stomach drops. Did you offend her at last weekend's barbecue? Did she hear what you said about parking? You replay the evening and remember a look you think she gave you over the guacamole. By the time you reach checkout, you've written a friendship obituary. You wheel your cart outside and see her in the lot, shoulders shaking. She's on the phone saying, "They admitted Dad. I'm driving now." Your story evaporates in the heat. Same person, different context. The cue didn't change. The room around it did. Think about this for a moment. How many misunderstandings in your life were born not from wrong data, but from missing context? You saw a late reply, a clipped word, a quick exit, and named it with certainty. But cues are local dialects. The same behavior avoiding eye contact, fast talking, crossed arms, can mean wildly different things depending on the situation, culture, stakes, and history. Context is the translator. Without it, we sentence people for crimes they didn't commit. Here's the psychology in plain English. Your brain uses schemas, mental templates, to predict what's happening. Schemas are efficient. They also assume. A crossed arms schema might say defensive, but in an over-air-conditioned conference room, crossed arms mean cold. An avoiding eye contact schema might say deceptive, but in some cultures, and for many neurodivergent folks, direct eye contact is uncomfortable or disrespectful. Ecological validity, the fit between a cue and its environment, matters. When the environment explains the cue, your suspicion should drop. When the environment conflicts with the cue, curiosity should rise. Consider timing. A pause after a question in a one-on-one can be a calm search for accuracy. The same pause on a live TV interview might signal calculation because the stakes and time pressure spike. On video calls, latency and audio lag add false alarms. Someone can nod 2 beats late and look like they're fake agreeing when they're just on hotel Wi-Fi. Context doesn't excuse everything, it explains a lot. Let's make this practical with a quick frame. Who, where, when, why, what else? Who are they? Culture, role, baseline. Where are we? Office, funeral, sales floor, group chat. When is it? Start of day, end of quarter, after a public mistake. Why does this matter? Stakes, power, incentives. What else is true in the scene? Temperature, tech, noise, travel, illness. Run this 5-point check before you crown a meaning. Real life. You're interviewing a candidate who keeps glancing down and to the side. Fast brain, shifty. Context, check. Where? A small room with bright lights. When? 8:30 a.m., Monday after they took a red-eye. What else? A printout of their portfolio on the desk. The glances are likely toward notes, not toward excuses. You adjust. If you want to reference your examples, feel free. Their shoulders drop. Answers sharpen. The behavior didn't change. The context you granted did. Another. Your partner snaps, "What?" when you ask about dinner. Fast brain, hostile. Context, check. Who? A person who hates being interrupted mid-task. Where? Kitchen, blender roaring. When? 10 minutes before a call with their boss. Why? Performance review week. What else? They didn't hear you fully. You try again, softer, with a tap on the counter to get attention first. Tacos or pasta? Tacos, they say without the spike. Same person, better frame. Here's a favorite from offices. You present a plan. One exec leans back, arms folded, lips flat, fast brain, opposition. Context check. That exec leans back in every meeting. It's their thinking pose. You test it. I'm interested in your first impression. They nod and offer 3 smart questions. If you'd attacked the defensiveness, you'd have started a firefight with a chair posture. Of course, context can also confirm pressure. You're in a high-stakes negotiation. The vendor's baseline is smooth. When price comes up, their blink rate jumps and their foot starts bouncing. Where? Boardroom. When? With their CFO present. Why? Margin. The environment predicts discomfort, so the cluster fits. You don't shout, "Gotcha." You say, "We can expand timeline or adjust scope. What keeps this healthy for both sides?" You read the room, not just the face. Pause and ask yourself, which contexts scramble your reads the most? Do you get extra suspicious in big groups? Do you assume warmth in church or cruelty on Twitter? Do you treat text threads like court transcripts and forget their terrible tone? Where has a single cue silence, speed, a sigh meant different things on different days? If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your examples will help someone else rescue a relationship from a false alarm. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, context can become a lazy excuse. That's just how this industry is. And it can hide harm. We joke like that here. Can be a blanket over disrespect. It's launch week. Doesn't permit cruelty. Context explains behavior. It doesn't absolve misconduct. Your task is to widen the frame without losing your spine. I know travel makes us punchy. I'm still not okay with being interrupted. Let's reset. That's how you stay kind and clear at the same time. Use context sandwiching. In hard conversations, start by naming the frame, then the cue, then the invitation. Given we're both tired after travel, context, when I heard the sarcasm in stand-up, cue, I tightened up. Can we keep it direct tomorrow? Invitation. People cooperate when they feel seen by the setting, not just judged by the signal. Another tool, constraint hunting. Before deciding what a cue means, ask, what constraints might be shaping this? Time limits, policies, childcare, illness, power distance, translation. A teammate who repeats themselves may be translating in their head. A leader who keeps answers short may be obeying legal. Hunting constraints pulls you out of character judgments and into problem solving. If legal's the constraint, can we get written guidance? Also, watch. Role drag. People carry the norms of one room into another by accident. The manager voice at home, the parent voice at work. Your partner's "let's make a plan" tone might not be control. It might be the office spilling into dinner. Naming it gently. Can we switch out of meeting mode? Often resets the vibe without a fight. Digital context deserves its own flag. In text, punctuation is mood. Fine reads as frost. Fine reads as neutral. Fine reads as playful or awful, depending on your history. Emojis are tone stabilizers for some and fluff for others. Response times map to jobs, time zones, and phone settings. If a thread matters, move up a medium, text to call to video to in person. If it doesn't matter, move down and let it breathe. Cultural context is a whole ocean. In some places, yes means I hear you, not I agree. In others, declining directly is rude. People will tell you the path that lets everyone save face. Status norms shift eye contact, formality, touch. Rather than memorizing a planet of rules, lead with humility. If I step on a norm here, please flag me, I'll do the same. Respect invites correction. Correction builds understanding. Here's a small exercise, the 30-second zoom out. When something lands wrong, picture pulling a camera back from a tight shot to a medium shot. Ask yourself, what's the room temperature? Who else is here? What is this person's baseline? What was just said 5 minutes ago? Then choose a question instead of a conclusion. I noticed a pause. Was that bandwidth or something else? 10 seconds of wider frame can save 10 hours of cleanup. A final story. You're boarding a flight. The gate agent sounds brusque, cuts off a passenger mid-sentence and keeps repeating, "If your bag doesn't fit, it will be checked." The line grumbles. Rude power trip, classic airline. At the door you say, "Long day." She exhales. 3 delays, a medical diversion, a trainee no-show. Same cues, different room. Context doesn't make brusqueness pleasant. It does make patience easier, and sometimes patience is the bridge to better service in the moment. Context won't fix everything. It will keep you from inventing villains and burning bridges you'll need later. It will help you see the human inside the moment, and it will train you to ask better questions before you swing. You'll still set boundaries. You'll still call fouls. You'll just do it with a frame wide enough to hold the whole picture. Next, we'll turn up the heat and watch what happens. Stress signals. You'll learn how pressure deadlines, stakes, fear changes bodies and words, how cortisol scrambles timing, and how to cool a conversation before it boils over. Context gave you the map. Stress will show you the weather system moving through it. Chapter 10. Stress signals, pressure, cortisol, and conversational heat. The first sign is the clock. It ticks louder than usual, like it has a microphone. You're 5 minutes into a tense status meeting. The client wants answers. The bug went live. The chat window keeps blinking. You say, "Walk me through the last deployment," and your engineer normally precise starts, speaking in fragments. So the thing, when Jenkins, he rubs the back of his neck, breath shallow, eyes darting to the door. Across the table, your account lead taps a heel on repeat, a metronome for dread. You feel your own throat go dry. The room isn't just hot, it's hormonal. Cortisol has pulled up a chair. Stress changes the sound of truth. Under pressure, the body reallocates resources. Blood leaves the fine motor and language centers and floods the big muscles and survival brain. Heart rate rises. Breathing climbs into the chest. Pupils widen. Attention narrows like a spotlight. And whatever lands in that circle becomes the whole stage. Words arrive out of order or in a torrent. Timing slips. Pauses elongate or vanish. Hands seek the collarbone or jaw as if there's a calm switch to press. Here's the psychology in plain English. The sympathetic nervous system is your gas pedal. It primes you to run, fight, or freeze. Adrenaline surges fast, cortisol follows and lingers. The prefrontal cortex, the part that sequences, plans, and chooses words, gets less oxygen. That's why people in the hot seat repeat themselves, forget obvious facts, mix up numbers, or hyper-focus on a small detail while skipping the big one. None of this equals deception. It equals heat. Think about this for a moment. When you've been under the lights, what happened to your voice, your pace, your memory? Did you start stacking intensifiers? Definitely. Absolutely. For sure. To force belief. Did your sentences end like questions because your tone tipped up? Did you fill silence with filler? Because silence felt like failure? Stress scripts us. If you can read your own script, you can edit it in real time, and you can give other people room to de-escalate without losing face. Let's put this in rooms you know. Salary talk. You anchor your number, and the manager's blink rate doubles. She looks at the spreadsheet, then away. Her lips compress. That's heat, not hostility. You breathe and lower your cadence. Happy to pause? What constraints are you holding? The room cools enough for a real answer. Parenting. Your teenager returns the car late, shoulders already high. You ask for the timeline. Their words tumble into a panicked word cloud. You remember the chapter on pauses and count 3 beats before you respond. Start it when you left Sam's. Their breath drops. The story finds order. Negotiation. A vendor pitches, you ask about hidden costs, and their foot starts bouncing while they reach for, honestly, this is the best you'll find. Heat statement. You mirror structure, not spin. I'm hearing confidence. To keep it clean, list every add-on we'd see in month 2. You didn't call out the stress, you gave it a lane. Stress also scrambles time. Under pressure, minutes feel like seconds and seconds like forever. People interrupt because waiting feels impossible. They overshare because the fear of being misunderstood outruns the plan to be clear. That's why your direct report, pressed on a miss, floods you with a play-by-play of their morning. It's not disrespect, it's the brain buying time. You can buy it for them more gracefully. Take a minute start with the top 3 facts, then we'll fill in. The phrase top 3 builds a shelf for their scattered items. Pause and ask yourself, what is your body's first stress? Tail throat tight, calf bounce, jaw set, words speeding up? Where does your language leak absolutes, apologies, qualifiers? Which rooms overheat you fastest? Performance reviews, first dates, talks about money, conversations with your parents. Naming the pattern is air conditioning. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes. Not all heat is situational. Some people live with a higher baseline ADHD, anxiety, trauma histories, health conditions, caffeine, low sleep. Their at rest might look like other people's mild pressure. Cultural norms shape expression too. In some families, speaking fast and loud is love, not threat. That's why you anchor to baselines, Chapter 2, and look for clusters, Chapter 3. Then pair your read with context, Chapter 9. You're not a thermometer hunting for liars. You are a weather reader keeping conversations safe for truth. Here are ways to cool a room without losing momentum. First, change the breathing. Longer exhales cue the parasympathetic brake. Your nervous system co-regulates others. Drop your shoulders. Let your sentences land with a full stop and a quiet breath. If you're leading, give one respiratory instruction disguised as permission. Let's all take 10 seconds to look at the timeline. We're not in a rush. People inhale permission and exhale detail. Second, change the pacing. Use the one-sentence round. Each of us gets one sentence on what we know for sure. It slices through panic monologues and equalizes voices. Then do the clarify pass. Now, one sentence on what's unclear. Naming uncertainty cools shame. Shame overheats rooms faster than any deadline. Third, change the medium. In heat, mouths run, hands help. Let's write the steps on the board. Visuals slow language and make missing pieces obvious without accusation. If the medium is a text fight, move up. This matters. Can we talk live? If live is too hot, time box it. 10 minutes now, then a 30-minute break, then we decide. Fourth, change the goal. Stress loves binary fights, win, lose, right, wrong. Swap for problem frames. Given reality, what's the least bad option? What can we salvage by Friday? If we had to cut scope by 20%, which 20%? Problems lower ego temperature. Fifth, change the body. Sit back instead of forward. Uncross arms. Put both feet on the ground. Place a palm flat on the table to anchor your breath. Offer props. Water. A pen. People regulate through objects when words feel slippery. Use the 90-second rule wisely. Adrenaline spikes burn hot for about a minute and a half. If something hits a bruise, say less for 90 seconds. Nod, take notes, ask one narrow question. Count your breaths. You'll say smarter sentences at second 91 than at second 9. Try heat mapping on a timeline. Where did the room get hot? Mark the beat. When we mentioned cost overrun, when the word always showed up, when Alicia's camera went off. Then design heat buffers at those beats for next time. A pre-agreed check-in question, a smaller decision, an ice sentence. We're on the same side. Let's find the next true step. Language matters. Swap accelerators for brakes. Accelerators, you always, you never. Why didn't you? Calm down. Brakes, right now. This one time. What would help? Take your time. Instead of what went wrong, try what got in the way. Instead of explain yourself, try walk me through your moves. Protect your own edges. Heat is not a hall pass for harm. You can acknowledge pressure and keep standards. I know we're under the gun. I'm not okay with sarcasm. Let's keep it direct. I can hear this matters. If voices go up, I'm stepping out for 5 and coming back. Boundaries cool rooms because they add predictability. Think about this for a moment. Which phrases will you preload for your next hot room? A sentence that buys time. Give me 10 seconds. A sentence that narrows. Let's make the next 2 decisions only. A sentence that humanizes. We're tired. We'll take care of each other and the work. If you're listening on YouTube, this is your cue to share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Describe a heat moment you cooled. What worked, what didn't, and what you'll try next time. A small story to tuck in your pocket. You're on a call with a furious customer. They talk fast, repeat grievances, stack absolutes. Your chest wants to sprint. You do 3 things. You lower your voice a half step, you write their top 3 points in view, and you reflect 1 feeling plus 1 fact. You felt blindsided. The ship date moved from Tuesday to Friday. Then you ask a narrow rescue question. Which would help more, a daily update or a partial shipment? The torrent becomes a stream. The stream becomes a plan. It wasn't magic. It was nervous system literacy. 1 more. You're mid-argument at home. The conversation has left the topic and entered the archive. You hear always, never, and the sound of old years creaking. You take the heat for a moment. We're off today's road and in the museum. I care about this too much to keep breaking it. 10 minutes, water, then 1 topic at a time. You step away, your heart keeps thudding, and then it doesn't. You return as a person instead of a siren. Stress will keep visiting. Deadlines, money, reputation, love, these are hot. You don't need to eliminate heat. You need to distribute it so it doesn't burn your clarity. When you can read the room's cortisol and offer better conditions, breath, pace, medium, goal, truth finds you sooner and decisions cost fewer scars. Next, we'll explore the currents that raise or lower the room's temperature before anyone speaks. Status games. Space, touch, and subtle power moves can heat a conversation or cool it without a single word. When you can feel those tides and set your stance, you'll enter hot rooms already standing on cool ground. Chapter 11, Status Games, Space, Touch, and the Subtle Power Move. It starts with the chair, the only one higher than the rest. You're early to a cross-functional meeting, and the long table looks like a runway. At the far end sits a tall-backed chair that could be a minor throne. You pick a middle seat. A few minutes later, the VP strides in, drops a laptop, and without breaking stride, takes the throne. People subtly pivot toward that end like sunflowers following light. When the client joins, the VP doesn't stand. Instead, they motion with 2 fingers for everyone else to sit. A project manager sets a water bottle down directly in front of the VP, label facing out like a nameplate. No one mentions power, but power is the loudest thing in the room. Status games aren't always ugly. They're how groups coordinate, who speaks when, whose turn it is to lead. Space, touch, and tiny moves where people stand, how they enter, who initiates contact, who claims objects, signal rank long before words do. When you can read these cues, you stop taking them personally and start using them ethically. You learn when to match and when to step out of the choreography so truth can get a word in. Think about this for a moment. Where do you place yourself by default? At the head of the table, against the wall, near the door. Do you stand when others sit? Do you speak with your hands open? Or do your fingers make tents that look like cathedrals? None of this is accidental. Your body is voting on status even when your mouth is talking collaboration. Here's the psychology in plain English. Humans are hierarchical mammals. We sort for safety. Who can protect? Who might punish? Where do I belong? The brain maps rank through territory. Who owns which space? Resource control. Time, attention, objects, and approach avoidance cues. Who moves into whom? Who yields first? Dominance displays expansive posture. Slow movement, minimal nodding broadcast. I'm safe enough to take space? Subordination displays shrinking posture, quick nods, accommodating smiles, broadcast, I'm not a threat. Neither is good or bad. Problems arise when status moves mute truth or humiliate people. Let's decode the 3 big channels. Space. Territory tells a story. The person at the end of the table gets the widest field of view and the last word. The person near the door can exit fastest and may look less invested. Standing signals, I'm commanding the room. Sitting signals, I'm in the circle. Even inches matter. A chair pulled slightly back from the table communicates evaluation. A chair tucked in signals engagement. In hallways, the person who keeps the path and makes others sidestep is taking status with architecture. In open offices, the one who parks bags on chairs saves territory the way animals save sunny rocks. Touch. Touch is power and risk. A hand on a shoulder, a hovering high five, a handshake that flips palm down, each says, "This is my move." In some cultures and contexts, touch is warmth. In others, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You don't need to fear all touch. You need to notice who initiates, who consents, and what happens to truth after contact. A leader who high-fives after critique may be smoothing status waves so the message lands. A leader who squeezes shoulders mid-meeting may be exerting control that silences dissent. micro moves. The subtle stuff. Who interrupts whom? Who claims the whiteboard? Who translates others' points? Who holds the clicker? Even water is a prop. Pouring for others signals service, not servility, when done with intention. The person who never takes notes may be performing importance. The person who always takes notes may be trapped in it. Switching roles on purpose. I'll scribe today. You run the board. Reshuffles status without drama and grows the team's skill. Real rooms make this concrete. In an interview loop, a hiring manager sits in the high chair, glances at email while candidates answer, and never leaves the head of the table. Candidates stiffen, answers flatten. You can't change the chair, but you can change the field. Slide your own chair a quarter turn toward the candidate to create a triangle that feels like a conversation, not a trial. When it's your turn, stand to greet, then sit at a 45-degree angle rather than dead-on, less confrontational, more collegial. You've just lowered the room's power glare. Another scene. A negotiation at a cafe. The other party arrives late, takes the seat facing the room. Status, surveillance, and places their phone face up between you. Status. My attention is scarce. You smile, slide the phone gently aside to make space for a pad and say, let's map the must-haves. You didn't fight the status grab. You reframed the table for work. If they keep the phone in the center, you learn something. Their status need is louder than their focus. Adjust your expectations and scope accordingly. Pause and ask yourself, which status moves turn your light off? A finger point? A palm down handshake? Someone standing close behind you while you present? What would it change if you prepared a gentle counter-move in advanced steeple to open hands, step to the side to break the hover? Let's rotate the screen so we're both looking to level the view. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your micro moves could be someone else's map. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, some behavior you label power play is actually habit, neurodiversity, or cultural norm. A colleague who doesn't make room when passing may be lost in thought, not asserting dominance. A leader who stands while you sit might be managing back pain, not elevating themselves. Humility keeps you reading for patterns, not prosecuting single moments. Still, don't let empathy talk you out of a boundary. If a move repeatedly dims voices or distorts decisions, name it. How to play the game without getting played? Use status judo. Redirect energy instead of meeting force with force. Name the room, not the rival. We've got a lot of voices in one whiteboard. Let's time box and rotate the marker. You've demoted the marker from a scepter to a utensil. Offer roles, not rank. You're great at big picture. Want to frame the outcome while I track decisions? Distinguish influence from importance. Both can be high. Design equalizing rituals. Stand-ups where everyone has 2 minutes, meetings where the most senior speaks last, one-to-ones where the junior person sets the first agenda item. Rituals move status from people to process. Use the room. Invite people to sit at equal height chairs. If a throne exists and you're leading, decline it on purpose. Let's all keep this casual. You didn't abdicate authority, you located it in the work. Ask for consent with touch, always. High five, handshake, or a wave. Consent turns warmth into safety. Without it, touch is a coin you can't unspend. Status also lives in digital space. the muted mic that stays muted while someone speaks, the camera off in a meeting where everyone else is on, the typing to bubble that flickers and vanishes after hard questions, claiming the doc cursors, owning the first comment, at mentioning without context. These are all micro moves. Use them consciously. Yield the first comment sometimes. Ask before screen sharing someone else's tab. Say, camera optional, and mean it. That tiny permission can return 5 units of attention to the work. A home example. 2 siblings visit their aging mother. One always takes the head of the table and runs the agenda. The other cleans the kitchen in silence. Status looks like leadership. Service looks like absence. You can rebalance with one sentence. You're great at decisions. Can we also rotate tasks so I get a say and you do dishes sometimes? The throne shrinks to a chair. Pause and ask yourself, where are you overplaying status because you're scared? Where are you underplaying it because you hate attention? What would wise use of status look like, taking the head seat when it anchors the group, giving it away when it silences truth? Power handled well is permission for others to bring their best. Power handled poorly is a fog machine. Field test this week. In your next meeting, move your chair 2 inches, either closer to signal engagement or back to signal you're listening, not competing. Offer the pen to the quietest voice with, "I'd love your frame on this." If you catch yourself interrupting, place your palms flat for 10 seconds and let someone else finish the song. A final story. You're pitching to a skeptical team. The director folds arms, looks past you, and keeps the clicker. Instead of wrestling for it, you say, "Would you advance when I say next? That'll keep my hands free to show this flow." They nod. You move. The room shifts. Halfway through, you slide the clicker back toward them after a joke. They laugh and keep it. Now you're co-owning attention. The pitch lands not because you won the chair, but because you quieted the game enough for the work to breathe. Next, the board tilts from rooms you can read to rooms where half the cues are missing. The digital mask. Texts, calls, and video add lag, filters, and curated angles. Status moves mutate there. In the coming chapter, you'll learn how deception and misunderstanding hide in pixels, how to spot them without paranoia, and how to keep humanity alive when our bodies are off-screen. Chapter 12. The Digital Mask, Deception in Texts, Calls, and Video. It starts with 3 dots. You're staring at your phone, watching the typing indicator blink like a heartbeat. You asked a simple question. Are we still on for tonight? And your screen replies with suspense. The dots appear, disappear, reappear. When the message finally lands, it's a single word. Fine. Period. Your chest tightens. Fine with a period feels like frost. Fine without a period would have felt neutral. Fine could be playful or furious depending on the day. You hover over the keyboard, writing and deleting, reading the tea leaves of typography. A whole relationship suddenly fits inside a bubble the size of a postage stamp. The digital world shrinks cues, and then our brains stretch them into dramas. On screens, we lose the smell of the room, the rhythm of breathing, the weight of a pause. We get proxies, timing, punctuation, emoji, camera angle, audio lag, a rectangle of shoulders, a curated background. None of these are lies. They're masks. The mistake is treating masks like faces, or worse, deciding the person behind the mask is whoever our hunger or fear wants them to be. Think about this for a moment. When you're nervous, How does your texting change? Do your messages get longer and more careful, or shorter and more clipped? Do you overuse LOL to soften your ask? On a video call, do you stare at your own tiny square, adjusting hair and lighting, and miss the head tilt that meant, "I'm on your side"? We pretend screens make us objective. They actually make us imaginative. The mind fills empty spaces with the stories it already knows. Here's the psychology in plain English. In digital channels, we rely on thin sliced data, small snippets our brains overconfidently evaluate. Without full body context, our threat system perks up. Ambiguity is expensive. The nervous system tries to close the loop fast, so a slow reply becomes rejection, a period becomes anger, a camera off becomes contempt. Cognitive load increases because we're decoding a cipher instead of hearing a human. That's why misunderstandings explode online. The signal is thin and our interpretations are thick. Let's put some rails on this. In text, your richest cues are timing, length, punctuation, emoji, and thread structure. Timing is tone. Quick replies feel warm unless the person's baseline is slow. If someone who normally responds within minutes goes silent for hours, that's a shift worth curiosity, not accusation. Length maps to bandwidth more than affection. Some people write novels because they think while typing. Others prefer one-line bricks of clarity. Punctuation is finicky. A period can be formal to one person and furious to another. Emojis try to carry tone, but they're dialects too. A skull can mean "I'm dead laughing" or "bad idea," depending on age and culture. Thread structure matters. When someone replies to 3 points but skips the fourth, it may signal discomfort with that node or just missing it in a bubble stack. Try this practice, the 2-tap rule. If a text lands wrong, don't auto-generate a meaning. Tap your screen off, breathe twice, then tap out a clarifier that assumes good intent and asks for specificity. Reading fine. As chilly, do you mean yes with limited time, or should we reschedule? You're giving the other person a ramp back to clarity instead of a cliff to defend from. Calls bring different masks. Audio compresses so breath and warmth thin out. Delays create accidental interruptions that feel like power moves. Silence on a call can be latency, not judgment. When your colleague pauses before answering, it might be them toggling mute because of a dog, not crafting a lie. Use the TL latency ladder. If someone speaks over you more than once, say, "I think our delay is tricking us. Let's add a beat after each question." Then actually add the beat. You'll be amazed how many rude people were actually just wrestling their Bluetooth. Video adds pictures with missing edges. Camera position equals power. A low camera looking up suggests dominance. A high camera looking down suggests diminishment. Eye level says peer. Lighting is honesty's best friend. Faces washed in shadow look secretive even when they're not. Virtual backgrounds can hide mess or identity. Both can be perfectly fine, but they also obscure baseline. If a teammate suddenly swaps from their usual kitchen scene to a generic skyline, curiosity is fair. New background, traveling or just protecting privacy today. You're not unmasking, you're anchoring. Build a mini baseline for each digital relationship. Note how fast they usually reply, whether they use periods, which emojis are their comfort set, how their camera sits, where their eyes go when they think. Then compare shifts, not single moments. Your manager's camera off on a day everyone else is on could be childcare, migraines, or travel. Ask, don't assume. Camera's optional for me today. Works for you? Leadership by permission calms nervous systems through screens. Pause and ask yourself, where do you most often misread the digital mask? Do you project disappointment onto delays? Do you mistake brevity for boredom? Do you upgrade charisma to competence just because a speaker has a studio mic and a bookshelf? What would change if you slowed your interpretations by 10 seconds and added one question for every 3 conclusions? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often, a colleague who sends messages at odd hours might be in a different time zone, neurodivergent, a parent using nap windows, or stuck in a culture that worships constant availability. Someone who never turns on video might be guarding bandwidth or safety. The digital mask sometimes protects trauma survivors, trans folks in hostile homes, employees in precarious jobs. Your job is discernment without intrusion. Be human and specific. Use whatever channel feels safe and easy. If we ever need higher fidelity talk, I'll suggest it. A few field tools. Channel shift. When meaning matters, move up a channel. Text to call to video to in person. When stakes are low, move down to protect bandwidth. The shift itself is a cue. Someone who resists any move up may fear accountability or simply be exhausted. Name it. This seems tricky in text. Would a 5-minute call help, or should we pick a later time? Right say show triangle. For complex or high-stakes topics, use all 3. Write the summary in a doc or email, say it on a call, and show it in a shared screen or slide. Repetition across modes reduces misreads and gives people multiple paths to understanding. Thread summaries. Long text chains breed selective memory. Every 10 bubbles, post a recap. So far, a yes. B in progress, C unclear. Did I get that right? This resets the story without shaming anyone's attention. Punctuation mirror. In early rapport, mirror someone's punctuation 1 step down in intensity. If they sprinkle exclamation points, you can use a few. If they write in periods, avoid strings of. You're aligning tone without surrendering your voice. Emoji ethics. Emojis add warmth for some, noise for others. Look for consent. If the other person never uses them, keep yours rare and purposeful. If they use them easily, one well-placed smile can carry 5 sentences of reassurance. Camera agreements. Leaders, declare camera optional as a norm, then invite camera-on moments for connection first 5 minutes, celebration, sensitive topics, rather than demanding constant visibility. Trust grows when people feel their bandwidth and privacy are respected. Digital deception exists, but it rarely announces itself with a villain's mustache. What you'll actually see is inconsistency without explanation. A LinkedIn profile that changes titles weekly, a vendor who can't answer simple timeline questions but over-answers in adjectives, a date who dodges specifics about meeting in public and keeps resetting the place last minute. Respond with boundaries, not bravado. For safety, I meet in public spaces. If that doesn't work for you, no problem. We'll need a statement of work with dates and deliverables before we proceed. You don't need to unmask anyone. You need to protect your time and body. If you're listening on YouTube, this is your gentle cue. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's one digital cue you've misread And what question might you ask next time instead of assuming? A final scene. You're on a Zoom panel, 4 boxes across, and the moderator tosses you a curveball. Your audio hiccups. You catch half the question. Old you would power through with filler and hope the audience fills in the gaps. New you smiles and says, I caught the first half. Would you repeat the last phrase? The moderator does. You answer cleanly. Later, someone DMs, thanks for normalizing clarity over pretending. That's the digital mask at its best, a tool you can adjust, not a face you're trapped behind. Next, we turn from pixels to the mind's projector. Memory. In the coming chapter, you'll meet memory's editor, the part of us that revises, deletes, and rearranges, and you'll learn to spot revisions, gaps, and glitches without humiliating anyone. The digital mask, hid cues. Memory can hide pieces of the story itself. We'll slow down, ask better questions, and hear what the brain meant to say all along. Chapter 13, Memory's Editor, Spotting Revisions, Gaps, and Glitches. It starts as a sweet story at Sunday dinner. Your sister is telling the classic tale of the road trip where the tire blew on a desert highway. She swears you were the one who flagged down the pickup, that Dad cracked a joke about survival merit badges, that the sun was setting purple behind a windmill. You smile because you love this story. Except that isn't how you remember it. In your version, it was noon, no windmill, and you were in the back seat holding the dog while Mom did the flagging. You open your mouth to correct the timeline, then notice your mother's face soft, a little misty. In her eyes, the purple sunset is real. If you press, it might turn the table into a courtroom. If you don't, the details will harden into history. You take a breath and realize you're arguing not with a liar, but with memory's editor, the quiet worker inside each of us who revises scenes to fit meaning, mood, and identity. Think about this for a moment. How many of your I know this happened moments are stitched from feelings, fragments, and photos you saw later? Memory is not a camera. It's a storytelling studio. We don't play back, we recreate. Each recall is an edit session where the brain pulls the gist, fills gaps with schema, at what usually happens, blends in suggestions from others, and writes a cleaner arc. Emotion turns knobs. Fear sharpens edges around threat. Shame fades our own missteps. Pride adds a little backlight to our hero moments. Later, when we remember again, we're recalling the last saved draft, not the raw event. This process reconsolidation keeps us adaptable. It also means confident memories can be confidently wrong. Here's the psychology in plain English. The hippocampus binds time, place, and detail. The amygdala flags what's emotionally important. The prefrontal cortex builds the story around it. Under stress, encoding is patchy. Under calm, we often record gist over minutia. Flashbulb memories feel vivid. I remember exactly where I was when, but aren't necessarily accurate. What's sticky is the emotion, not every fact. Suggestibility sneaks in when we debrief out loud. A friend says, "You were wearing the red jacket," and your brain hungry for completion drops a red sleeve into the scene. None of this is deception. It's the brain doing its best with messy life. So, how do you spot memory's editor at work without humiliating people you care about or yourself? Listen for the signatures. One is confident global claims paired with thin specifics. "I always told you I didn't want that," followed by a fog when you ask, "When?" Another is time collapse. "It was all in 1 week," when calendar artifacts show a spread over a month. Watch for over-polished dark stories that arrive with a moral and neat symmetry, and for sudden, unnecessary precision. It was exactly 7:03, inserted where exactness wasn't asked. That may be cognitive load trying to convince. On the other end, notice hedges that signal mismatch between felt certainty and detail access. I think maybe it must have been. I want to say none of these prove falsehood. They signal edits and gaps places to slow down or bring in anchors. Real life at work, you're doing a post-mortem on a busted release. The product lead insists engineering got the spec late, and engineering counters, we had it the whole time. Memory's editor is earning overtime. You resist the courtroom instinct and switch to collaboration. Let's reconstruct together. Open calendars, Slack, and the doc history. We'll plot timestamps first, no blame, just sequence. Artifacts cool heat. The Slack thread shows a draft shared on the 10th, approvals on the 12th, a revision on the 15th. The product leads late feeling maps to the revision date, Eng's on-time maps to the draft. Both experiences are true in different frames. With the timeline visible, you can design the fix. Single source of truth with final tags, check-ins at T-7 and T-3. No one had to be the villain. At home, your partner says, "You promised we'd leave by 9. "You're sure you said around 9. Memory's editor protects both your identities, their need for reliability, your need not to be careless. You try the 2-track sentence from earlier chapters. Feeling. You felt jerked around. Fact, I remember saying around 9. Let's check texts. The scroll shows 9-ish, followed by a heart emoji. Now you negotiate the future. Next time, I'll put an exact time in the calendar. You'll ping me at 8:30 if we're drifting. The point isn't to win the old version, it's to upgrade the next one. Here's a gentle, powerful technique borrowed from investigative interviewing that fits everyday life. Context reinstatement. Invite the senses back without leading. Close your eyes for a second and go to the kitchen that morning. What were you doing with your hands when you took the call? Walk me from the elevator to your desk. Who did you pass? Sensory anchors, smell of coffee, hum of the copier, can pull authentic fragments that chronological drilling misses. Pair that with an instruction. Tell it out of order if that's easier. Many brains remember islands better than bridges. Letting people hop builds a truer map. Pause and ask yourself, where do you notice your own memory's editor working the hardest stories that cast you as always helpful, always overlooked, always right? Which details do you defend most fiercely, and what identity do they protect? But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Maybe the deeper thing is not who grabbed the jack on the highway, but who learned to trust themselves under pressure. Maybe the detail you fight for is a stand-in for a need, credit, safety, dignity that you can ask for directly now. When the stakes are tender trauma, loss, betrayal, treat memory like a skittish animal. You don't corner it, you create a clearing. Keep your questions open and non-leading. What stands out? What came next for you? Avoid loading words that plant suggestions. Instead of, did he yell? Try, how was his voice? Respect that trauma can fracture sequence and sensory access. You can believe someone's harm without demanding cinematic detail. Where legal or clinical accuracy matters, bring in trained pros. Your job in personal life is care and clarity, not cross-examination. Make memory-safe containers with 5 simple moves. First, slow the tempo. Fast rooms encourage confident fiction. Second, separate feelings and facts on paper. 2 columns where both are honored. Third, anchor with artifacts. Photos, receipts, call logs, doc versions. Fourth, diagram the timeline together. Whiteboard, sticky notes, shared doc. So the story lives outside either nervous system. Fifth, label uncertainty explicitly. I'm 9 out of 10 on this part, 4 out of 10 on that. A confidence meter turns arguments into maps. For yourself, build an honesty kit. Keep a quick journal bullets, not essays, so your future arguments don't rely on fog. Screenshot what matters, agreements, dates. But don't hoard receipts like a prosecutor. Hoard them like a pilot logs checkpoints, so you can land the plane when the weather turns. Try the 2-pen method. 1 color for what happened, 1 for what you felt in the moment or soon after. Later, when the editor wants to buff or blur, you'll have the raw footage. Also, learn to abandon small fights. If a detail won't change a boundary, an apology, or a plan, let it go. Whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. You'll be shocked how quickly people relax when accuracy serves repair rather than pride. Conversely, when a detail does change safety or accountability, hold the line with kindness. I know it's fuzzy. For the budget, we need the exact date. Let's pull the records together. Digital life can help or hurt. Group chats rewrite memory in public through running jokes, which can canonize errors. Use thread summaries. So far, we agree A, B, C, D is still unclear. Email subject lines that include dates become future lifelines. Shared docs with version history are arguments you never have to have. The trick is to move from who's right to what can we check. If you're listening on YouTube, here's your nudge. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. What's one memory dispute that softened when you brought in an artifact or when you let a small detail go? A final scene. Back at Sunday dinner, you try something new. I love this story, you say. I remember it a little differently, no windmill. And Mom, weren't you the one who waved the truck down? Your mother smiles, tilts her head. Maybe so, she says, but I'll keep the purple sky. You laugh. Fair, I'll keep the dog in my lap. The table relaxes. 2 versions sit side by side like photos from different angles. The Meenan family held together on a hot, ridiculous day stays intact. You protected the truth without puncturing the heart. In the next chapter, we're walking into the rooms where edited memories collide with high stakes. Negotiations, apologies, confrontations. How do you land the plane when timelines don't match? When I never said that meets I wrote it down. When truth and dignity both need a seat. We'll build scripts and structures that carry everyone across without burning the bridge you still need. Chapter 14, High-Stakes Rooms, Negotiations, Apologies, and Confrontations. The glass walls make everything louder. You're in a conference room, overlooking the city late afternoon, stale coffee, a spreadsheet glowing on the screen like a verdict. Across from you sits the vendor's account director, jaw squared, hands folded. Your team is to your left, the quiet kind of tense. You're here because an overage exploded the budget. You open with, "Help me understand how we got here," and watch his eyes flick toward the door, a tiny exit sign in a human face. A month ago, this might have devolved into blame ping pong. Today, you remember what you've learned. Baseline micro shifts, leaky language, the power of pause. High-stakes rooms aren't where you suddenly become someone else. They're where your practice pays rent. Think about this for a moment. What makes a room high stakes for you? Money, reputation, love, belonging. Your body knows before you do. Heart up, breath high, voice narrow. High stakes aren't a license to abandon your skills. They're the reason to use them. The goal isn't to win a duel. It's to build an outcome you can live with tomorrow. Here's the psychology in plain English. Under pressure, people cling to face, how I'm seen. Agency, do I have choices? And fairness, am I being treated justly? Threaten any of the three, and the limbic system throws a flare. Your job is to lower social threat without dropping standards. In practice, that looks like giving choices within boundaries, naming mutual goals, and translating blame into structure. The person across from you is a nervous system with a job. Treat them that way and the conversation changes shape. Start with negotiations. Most people enter on two shaky legs, vague objectives and premature concessions. Replace both with a three-layer plan. Anchor, ask, alternatives. Anchor is your clear, specific first stake. We need a credit of $4,000 to $5,000 applied this quarter. Ask is your curiosity about constraints. What's the smallest lever on your side that could move us toward that? Alternatives are pre-built branches, scope swap, timeline trade, multi-part payment. When you present your anchor, pair it with calm silence. Let the number land. Watch the micro cues. If blink rate spikes and lips compress, stay kind and concrete. If $45,000 is hard, show me the math that is possible and the conditions that unlock it. Language matters. Swap adversarial why for collaborative what and how. What would have to be true for us to hit X dollars? Makes the other party a problem solver instead of a defendant. Use totals and time. $30,000 over 3 months sounds less like a cliff and more like stairs. When emotion rises, zoom out. We both need a relationship that survives next quarter. Let's architect that. Now the apology room, where many careers and marriages detour. A true apology is an act of engineering. You name the failure, validate the impact, clean your side of the street, and propose a safeguard. Try this spine. I'm sorry on behavior, and it landed as impact. That makes sense to me because, for their context, I own my part and will let specific change. No if, no but, no biography. You're not proving you're a good person. You're repairing trust with measurements. Pause and ask yourself, which part do you usually skip impact, ownership, or the safeguard? That's your growth edge. A scene at home. You missed your partner's event. Old you. I was slammed. Traffic was insane. New you. I'm sorry I didn't show up. You felt alone on a day that mattered. I double booked. I've put your next 2 events on my calendar with alerts. If I hit a conflict, I'll tell you 24 hours ahead. They might still be hurt. You let the silence breathe. Repair isn't a magic trick. It's a practice that pays interest over time. Confrontations are where truth and dignity go to wrestle. Make them less bloody with a 3-step frame. Describe, impact, request. Describe the observable without diagnosis. In last week's meeting, you said, "This is a joke," while I was presenting. Impact connects behavior to your lived reality. I felt undermined, and the room went cold. Request gives a bridge. Going forward, if you disagree, name the concern, and I'll make space. If sarcasm pops out, I'll pause and ask for a reframe. You're not just venting, you're rewriting the script with a co-author. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, people sometimes resist, not because they're villains, but because your request threatens their face, agency, or fairness. In the confrontation, add one face-saving line. I'm bringing this to you because I value working together. Offer agency. Do you want to respond now or after you think? Name fairness. If I do this, I want you to call me on it too. Dignity is a lubricant. Conversations with it slide where bare force only scrapes. Artifacts are your ally when memory gets loud. In any high-stakes room, externalize the story. Whiteboard the timeline. Write the agreements in the shared doc while you're together. Use the "we said, we saw, we'll do" summary at the end. We said the overage was caused by A and B. We saw the rate card didn't reflect scope. We'll issue a $35,000 credit and reset change order rules. Email it within the hour. You're not arming for court. You're preventing amnesia. Think about this for a moment. What sentence helps you steady yourself when stakes spike? Preload 2. One for negotiation. I'm comfortable with silence. I need the real constraints. One for apology. No biography, just repair. Write them on your palm if you have to. Your future self will thank you. In teams, design the room before you enter it. If you lead, set norms that keep heat from owning the hour. Most seniors speaks last, one-sentence rounds before debate. Cameras optional, but decisions captured in writing. And a 5-minute feelings versus facts split on hot topics. Call timeouts when voices climb. We're veering into interpretation. Let's list 5 facts we all agree on. Structure is kindness wearing a lanyard. A miniature playbook for the vendor meeting you started in. You anchor. We need a $45,000 credit. You ask, what lever do you control? He says, honestly, the best we can do is 10. The honestly is a leak. The foot bounce says heat. You breathe. If 10 is fixed, show me the math. If not, let's mix tools. Credit plus scope trade plus an executive check-in. He glances at the ceiling, then back. We could do 25 now, 10 next quarter, and swap X for Y. You pause, confer with your team in a quiet sidebar protecting face by not haggling across the table over every dollar. You land on terms you can explain to your CFO, captured on the screen while you talk. The relationship survives because you aimed at next quarter, not next minute. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Which room negotiation, apology, confrontation do you dread? And which tool will you test first? A final note for your pocket. High-stakes rooms reward pre-commitments. Decide ahead of time what you won't trade your integrity, your team's dignity, your sleep, and what you can flex timeline, format, non-critical scope. Tell your team your lines. Pressure loves secrecy. It isolates you until you cave. Clarity loves daylight. It steadies you when the hour turns sharp. As you leave the glass room, the city still hums, but your heart hums lower. You didn't win a duel. You built a bridge and put weight on it. Tomorrow, you'll cross it again, this time toward the hardest chapter. The lies we live. Self-deception is the cleverest opponent you'll face because it speaks in your voice. In the next chapter, we'll turn that voice toward truth without shame and start the quiet renovations that make honesty your home. Chapter 15. The Lies We Live, Self-Deception, and Inner Alignment. It sneaks in with kindness, your kind voice, the one that says, "You've had a long day. You earned this." You're standing in front of the fridge at 10:47 p.m., the goal on your phone wallpaper glowing back at you. Sleep by 10:30. You promised yourself that this week would be different. But the spoon is already in your hand, the carton already opening, and a familiar sentence glides in like a soft blanket. This doesn't count. You laugh because it always counts on the scale, in the morning fog, in the quiet disappointment you'll carry while brushing your teeth. You're not a liar. You're a human with a clever brain that protects you from discomfort by bending the story. Tonight's chapter is about that bend. Think about this for a moment. If you had to list 3 sentences you use to soothe yourself out of a commitment, what would they be? I'll start Monday. It's not that bad. I'll make up for it later. Self-deception rarely shouts. It whispers. It doesn't say, break your values. It says, look over here, it's safer. The move is ancient. The brain hates cognitive dissonance holding I value X next to I'm doing not X, so it smooths one side. We rationalize, minimize, euphemize. I didn't lie. I avoided drama. I'm not procrastinating, I'm marinating. I don't overspend, I invest in experiences. The body registers the mismatch anyway. A tiny jaw clench, a shallow breath, a quick glance away from the mirror. Your own micro shifts talk to you. Here's the psychology in plain English. Self-serving bias makes your wins internal. I worked hard. And your misses external. Market was weird. Sunk cost fallacy keeps you in bad jobs and tired relationships because you've already invested so much. Present bias overvalues now use comfort at tomorrow. Use expense. Effective forecasting mistakes your future mood. Once I buy this, achieve that, move there, I'll be happy. And keeps you chasing horizon. None of these make you a bad person. They make you a person with a nervous system that treats discomfort like danger. Real life at work. You tell yourself you can handle the extra project because it'll only take an hour, even though the last 3 one-hour favors became weekend marathons. You're protecting your identity as helpful while violating your boundary of sustainable pace. At home, you insist you're staying for the kids when part of you knows you're staying because change is terrifying. With money, you say, it's a bargain, when the truth is it's a distraction. With health, I don't have time to move, while scrolling 40 minutes of strangers' mornings. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Often, yes. Under most self-deception sits a good value trying to breathe. Your late-night spoon might be trying to give you comfort. Your overcommitment might be trying to protect belonging. Your vague answer might be trying not to wound. When you honor the value, you can stop bending the story. I want comfort becomes what comforts me that doesn't cost me. I want to belong becomes how do I belong without sacrificing myself? Truth gets easier when it has a job other than punishment. Let's build tools that turn the light on gently. Start with the integrity gap scan. On one sheet, write 3 columns. Value, behavior, gap. Value, health, behavior, sleep at 10:30, gap. Streaming until midnight twice this week. Add 1 line. Cost, mornings foggy, workout skipped, patience thin. You aren't shaming, you're mapping. Then add smallest repair. Charge phone outside bedroom. Set app timer at 10:10. You've turned guilt into engineering. Try the 1-sentence truth. When you catch yourself justifying, say a single clear sentence with no adjectives, no biography, no future promises. I said I'd be there at 7. I arrived at 7:20. Or, I bought it because I wanted the dopamine. Or, I avoided the hard talk. One sentence is a key. It fits the lock. You can open a door from there. Use opposite day on your stories. When your brain says, I don't have time, flip it. I'm not making time. When it says, I had to, try. I chose to. Feel the heat? That's agency returning to your hands. You might still make the same choice, but now you know you made it. Make a Ulysses pact with yourself for slippery moments. Decide in your cool brain what your hot brain can't be trusted to decide. After 9:30, no decisions involving sugar or online purchases. If I'm asked to take on extra work, I'll say, let me check my bandwidth and reply tomorrow. Put the pack somewhere, public sticky note shared doc, friend who will smile at you and say, you promised yourself. Invite a friendly witness. We tell cleaner truths when someone kind is listening. I need a 2-minute honesty window. You text a friend. Here's what I'm doing to sabotage myself this week. Or, here's the spin I'm putting on a choice. They don't fix you. They mirror you. Sounds like you're about to trade sleep for scrolling. Want me to call you at 10:20? Accountability doesn't need a gavel. It needs a human. At work, use pre-mortems and after-action truths. Pre-mortem. If this plan fails, what will we say was the real reason? You'll hear the honest risks before the spin gets installed. After action, one slide called, what we told ourselves, versus what actually happened. The point isn't humiliation, it's calibration. Teams that can say, we believed the vendor timeline because we wanted the win, waste less life later. Pause and ask yourself, what is one story I'm telling that's protecting me from a truer, braver choice? Where do I routinely move the goalposts for myself? I'll start when the calendar clears, as if the calendar ever clears. If you're listening on YouTube, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Your honesty might be the lever someone else needed to lift their week. Self-deception also wears costumes that look like virtue. Perfectionism can pose as high standards while hiding a terror of being seen trying. Over-helping wears the mask of kindness while ensuring you'll never have to ask for help. Busyness performs importance while avoiding intimacy. A question to keep in your pocket. If I couldn't use this word, busy, standards, kind, what would I call my behavior? Sometimes the new word is hiding. Your body is your best lie detector for your own lies. Notice your tells. The quick throat clear before you say, it's fine. The shoulder hunch when you say, no problem. The foot that angles away from the hard talk. These are your micro shifts. You can learn to obey them. My foot's pointing at the door time to say I need to go. My jaw's tight time to admit I'm not okay with this plan. The skill you used on others in earlier chapters, you now use on yourself. When truth threatens identity, shrink the unit of honesty. Don't try to become a person who never procrastinates. Become the person who does the first 2 minutes now. 2 minutes is a Trojan horse. You open the doc, name the file, type the title. Momentum takes care of the next 8. Tiny integrity compounds. 5 small kept promises change your posture faster than one grand vow broken on day 3. And when you fail, you will. Repair with yourself the way you learned to repair with others. Skip the flogging speech. Use the same spine. I'm sorry I broke a promise to you. It cost us a morning. I understand why you don't trust me right now. Here's the safeguard. Alarms at 10:10 and 10:20. Phone charging outside. Self-trust is built exactly like trust with anyone else. Micro-consistency plus kind repair. A final story. Your friend asks how your book is going. Old you says, I'm deep in research, which is code for not writing. New you inhales and says the one-sentence truth. I'm avoiding chapter 4 because I'm afraid it won't be as good as chapter 1. Your friend doesn't rescue you. They say, set a timer for 15. Write the worst paragraph on purpose and text me, done. You laugh, set the timer, and you do it. The paragraph is bad. It is also real. On the other side of that ugly paragraph is a cleaner feeling than any midnight spoon ever gave you. Alignment. You don't need to become a different person to stop lying to yourself. You need to become more of the person you already are when you keep small promises, calm, clear, and a little bit braver. The lies we live are often just detours around feelings. When you learn to feel without drowning, you don't need the detour. Next, we'll turn truth into muscle memory. Integrity isn't a mood. It's a set of habits that train your eye, ear, and gut to work together when it counts. In the final chapter, you'll build daily drills that make honesty your default posture, not the dramatic choice you have to psych yourself up for. The closing promise is simple. Keep these small agreements, and your life gets quieter in all the best ways. Chapter 16, Integrity Habits, Training Your Eye, Ear, and Gut for Truth. It's a Tuesday you'll forget. By Friday gray sky, coffee a little too bitter, a calendar with more rectangles than air. On your commute, you decide to try something small. At the lobby door, you pause and notice the security guard's baseline. Cheerful nod, left eyebrow flick, a rhythm you've seen 100 times but never named. In the elevator, a colleague says, "Crazy morning," with a voice half a tone higher than usual. You don't diagnose, you file it. At your desk, you write one line at the top of a sticky note. See more. Say less. Ask better. It's nothing dramatic, just a weight shift from guessing to noticing. By lunch, you realize you're calmer. By dinner, you've had 3 clearer conversations than you had all last week. That's the secret of integrity habits. Tiny, repeatable moves that make truth the easiest path. Think about this for a moment. We love breakthroughs, but our lives are built by drills. Athletes don't wake up honest in the fourth quarter. They practice in the quiet. Musicians don't improvise cleanly without scales. You won't suddenly read a room in a crisis if you don't train your eye on Tuesdays. This chapter isn't about being impressive. It's about getting eye reps, ear reps, gut reps. So your nervous system and your values stop arguing and start collaborating. Here's the psychology in plain English. Habits move behavior from the effortful part of your brain, prefrontal cortex, to the efficient networks that run routines, basal ganglia. Repetition, context cues, and small rewards wire a loop. Trigger, action, satisfaction. When your loop is see a cue, breathe, ask a precise question, honesty costs less glucose than defensiveness. When your loop is feel heat, pause 3 beats, narrow the problem, you stop paying panic tax. The point isn't to become robotic. It's to free up bandwidth so you have room for nuance where it matters. Start with a morning warm-up that takes 2 minutes. Call it the Truth Primer. First, name your Tell one intention. Today, I will protect clarity in one conversation. Second, choose one drill. You'll practice the 60-second baseline scan before each meeting, the 3-beat pause after hard questions, or the 2-track sentence when feelings and facts tangle. Third, preload one sentence. You want available under pressure. Walk me through that again, or what would help here? Tape it near your camera. That tiny ritual anchors your day in skill, not hope. Throughout the day, run micro drills. In the hallway or on a call, pick a person and collect 3 neutral observations. Pace, posture, breathing. Don't infer. Inventory. That's 1 eye rep. In a chat thread, replace one assumption with a clarifier. When you say later, do you mean today or tomorrow? That's 1 ear rep. When your gut spikes heat in chest, jaw tight, label the sensation and add 1 breath. That's 1 gut rep. A dozen of these in a day is a quiet revolution. Use micro contracts to weave reliability into your hours. Promise small. Deliver exactly. I'll send the doc by 3:15, not sometime this afternoon. Then actually hit 3:15 or warn at 2:55 if you won't. Micro-consistency turns your name into a trustworthy object in other people's minds. It also rebuilds self-trust, which is the real engine of honesty. When you keep many tiny promises, the big ones stop feeling like cliffs. Adopt a 3-part debrief you can do in 5 minutes after any charged moment. Right. What I saw. Observable cues. What I heard. Leaky language, tone, timing. What I felt. Sensations and story. Then add 1 line. What I'll try next time. You're not litigating the past. You're training the future. Over a week, patterns pop. You'll see the colleague whose blink rate doubles on budget slides, the word that always heats your neck, the meeting where your pace sprints. Awareness turns into adjustment without theatrics. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? Yes, habits can become hiding places, rituals that look like integrity but dodge intimacy. You can turn always summarize into performative neatness or 3-beat pause into a weaponized silence. The guardrail is intent. Every drill should serve connection and clarity, not control. If a habit hardens into a rule that hurts the room, loosen it. If a habit keeps you from feeling, it's not a truth habit. It's armor. Build a weekly calibration that keeps your compass honest. Once a week, look back through your calendar and ask 3 questions. Where did I notice a real shift from baseline? Where did I fill silence that didn't need filling? Where did I choose comfort over clarity? Pick 1 repair and 1 experiment. Repair could be a quick message. I rushed earlier. Here's the clearer version. Experiment could be, I'll let the first pause breathe in Thursday's review. Your integrity grows most on the days you fix small misses fast. Create 2 boundary scripts you can deploy without adrenaline. For heat, I want to solve this. I need voices low to stay in it. For scope creep, I'm at capacity. I can take this if we drop X or move Y. Practicing these out loud once a week makes them feel like yours when the room tilts. Boundaries spoken early make fewer enemies than resentments spoken late. Give your digital life a truth tune-up. Turn off 1 notification that trains you to reply without reading. Add 1 thread summary habit. Every long exchange gets a, so far we have A, B, C, is unclear, right? Notice your punctuation mirror. Match 1 notch down to keep tone aligned. When a message stings, use the 2-tap rule. Screen off, 2 breaths, clarifier sent. Your thumbs can be your worst liar or your best editor. Train them. Bring your body in on the plan. Sleep is an honesty multiplier. Exhaustion makes spin feel like survival. Protect a wind-down window that puts your future mouth in a better mood. Hydrate before a tough talk. People misread thirst as threat. Sit with both feet down during negotiations. It grounds your voice. If you fidget under pressure, give your hands a job pen, not phone. You are not a brain carried by a skeleton. You are a nervous system with policies. Make repair a reflex. When you catch yourself using leaky language honestly, always, never correct in real time. Strike always twice this month. When you miss a cue and learn later, circle back. I saw your foot bouncing and still pushed. Next time, I'll check pace. The apology muscles from Chapter 14 strengthen here. The more often you repair, the less scary it is to risk clarity in the first place. Teach the room the game you're playing. Mention baselines as a shared practice. I try to notice normal, so I don't freak out at small shifts. Feel free to do that with me. Normalize pause. If I go quiet after a question, it's because I'm thinking, not mad. Invite checks. If I use absolutes, call me in. When teams share vocabulary baseline, cluster, pause, context, truth stops being a solo sport. Keep a tiny log of clean wins. Not the raises or the big reconciliations. Those count too, but aim smaller. Ask one clarifying question instead of assuming. Let silence do the work. Said, I don't know, and lived. Reread the list on days you feel foggy. Integrity is heavy when you think it's a test. It's light when you remember it's practice. Pause and ask yourself, which single habit from this book will buy you the most calm if you do it daily for 30 days? The 3-beat pause, the mini baseline, the 2-track sentence, the micro contract. Choose one. Write it somewhere you'll trip over it. If you're listening on YouTube, share your choice in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Saying it out loud turns a hope into a plan. One more small, sturdy drill to carry out the door. The evening, too. Before bed, answer 2 prompts in a sentence each. Where did I tell the truth kindly today? And where will I tell it a little sooner tomorrow? No scolding, no speeches. You're watering a plant, not grading a paper. The Tuesday you'll forget gave you something you won't. Proof that a life of clarity is built in minutes, not moments. Your eye got sharper without getting mean. Your ear got kinder without getting gullible. Your gut stopped yelling and started guiding. None of it was magic. It was reps. In the epilogue, we'll zoom out and look at what happens to a life when truth becomes your resting posture. How rooms get quieter, choices get cleaner, and courage feels less like a leap and more like a step you've taken before. The promise isn't that people stop lying. It's that you stop lying to yourself about what you see, hear, and know. And that changes everything. Epilogue. Clear eyes, brave choices. You step outside, and the air is the kind that remembers rain. It's late, not quite night. The city running on its softer heartbeat. You walk past windows that hold small lives. Someone rinsing plates. Someone practicing scales. Someone arguing in whispers and then laughing because they both said the same thing at the same time. You think about how many rooms you've walked into since this began. The Tuesday coffee shop, the elevator interview, the kitchen with the late kiss, the glass-walled negotiation, the quiet battlefield of your own midnight promises. It's all the same project, really, seeing a little more clearly, choosing a little more bravely. Clarity didn't turn you into a detective. It made you a better neighbor to the truth. You learned that baselines are kindness, that micro shifts are whispers, that words leak when pressure rises, that silence is not a void, but a porch light. You separated feeling from fact without abandoning either. You cooled hot buttons without freezing your heart. You danced trust with warmth and proof. You widened to context, so single cues stopped sentencing people to lifelong labels. You read stress without calling it sin. You noticed status games, declined the throne when it hurt the room, took it when it steadied the work. You respected the digital mask without mistaking it for a face. You treated memory like a living draft. You apologized like an engineer, negotiated like a partner, confronted like a builder. You told yourself the one-sentence truth and built habits that made honesty cheaper than spin. Think about this for a moment. Which small move did you underestimate at the start? Was it the 3-beat pause that turned arguments into conversations? The question, what would help here, that kept someone from drowning? The micro-contract you kept on time that quietly upgraded your name in someone's mind? We dream of grand gestures, but rooms get safer one tiny hinge at a time. Pause and ask yourself, where is the first room you'll practice tomorrow? The stand-up, where you'll mirror the structure of an overconfident claim and ask for the numbers. The dinner, where you'll let the silence breathe after, how was it, really? The text, you'll clarify instead of catastrophize. The mirror, where you'll say, I chose this, and then choose the next right thing. Brave choices rarely require trumpets. They usually need a sticky note and an exhale. But is this really the whole truth? Could there be something deeper? There always is. People will still surprise you. You will still misread. Stress will still light matches. Memory will still tidy. Some days, you'll sprint back to old habits because they're paved and familiar. That's not failure, it's weather. The sky clears faster now because you know where the exits and windows are. You also know when to stand in the rain and let it tell you what you've been trying not to hear. Here's what changes quietly but completely when seeing becomes a practice. Rooms get quieter. The drama dial drops. Fewer conversations end with the taste of metal. You ask for what you need with the tone you like living with. You become the person people text when they don't know how to say the hard thing because you listen without treating their breath like evidence. You notice how often truth was waiting, impatient but patient on the other side of one respectful question. And you change, not into someone colder or harder, but into someone steadier. Your spine and your kindness stop arguing. Your mouth stops spending tomorrow's trust to buy today's comfort. Your hands learn when to hold, when to let go, when to write it down. You become the kind of person who can sit in a meeting where nobody is saying what's obvious and be the one who says it cleanly, or be the one who asks the question that lets someone else say it first. A small story to keep. Months from now, you'll be back in a coffee shop that smells like dark roast and rain. Someone you care about will show up 10 minutes late with a too wide smile. Their feet will point toward the door. You'll notice the micro press of their lips, the shallow breath, the bag clutched like a shield. You won't pounce or punish or perform. You'll breathe and make room. Rough day? You'll say and mean it. And because the room feels like a place where truth doesn't have to wear a costume, they'll tell you the real story. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's joy they don't know how to hold. You'll hear it. The coffee will get cold, and it won't matter. This is not a promise that everyone will be honest with you. It's a promise that you will be honest with yourself about what you see and what that asks of you. Sometimes it asks for a boundary. no, thank you. Sometimes for an apology, I'm sorry, that's on me. Sometimes for a pivot, we were wrong, here's the new plan. Sometimes for nothing but presence. Truth doesn't always demand action. Often it just wants a witness. The final habit might be the simplest. Keep choosing the next true sentence. In rooms, in texts, in mirrors. One sentence that respects both the person and the reality. One sentence that replaces always with twice this month. One sentence that names the feeling and the fact and leaves space for the other person's version. One sentence that says, I'm listening, and then proves it. If you're listening on YouTube, this is your moment. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Tell us the smallest habit you're taking from this, or the moment you misread and then made it right. Your story is a bridge someone else is looking for. Before you go, make one micro-commitment you can keep by this time tomorrow. Text a clean thanks. Ask a clarifying question. Put your phone face down for the first 5 minutes of a conversation. Count to 3 after your next real question. Write a 2-sentence recap after the messy thread. Circle back with one honest repair where you flinched. If you want to, write it on your hand. See more. Say less. Ask better. Clear eyes don't guarantee easy roads. They guarantee fewer avoidable wrecks. Fewer nights spent replaying scenes you could have steered differently. More mornings with a body that isn't bracing for your own mouth. Brave choices rarely look brave from the outside. They look like a person being calm when they could be clever, kind when they could be right, honest when they could be adored. That person can be you, on an ordinary Tuesday, under an ordinary sky that remembers rain, doing the most extraordinary thing a human can do, telling the truth in a way that keeps the door open. The door is open now. Walk through.